Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, in today's installment of The Cover-Up is Worse Than the Scandal, I present to you the apology by one Canadian curler, co-skipper Skip Kennedy, who is now taking responsibility for his less than perfect response to being accused of touching a stone improperly. Behold!
It wasn't great. We're looking forward to moving on from it. To be completely honest with you, I probably could have handled myself better in the moment. My whole life, I've been a little bit like that. If my integrity gets questioned, we're human out there. There's a lot of emotions. No question, I could have handled it better though. So I know I'm a role model for Canadian curlers. So if I apologize at all, it's to the young curlers around the country that would have expected more from me in that moment. So that's where I feel a little bit bad for it. But also felt like I was defending and standing up for my teammates and myself in a moment where it was kind of tough on us all game what Sweden was doing to us. So, anyways, looking forward to moving on. It was
yes, everyone's looking forward to moving on to a improper reaction to what is otherwise an innocuous accusation of having improperly touched the stone. People, if you haven't heard the scandal, what's great is it goes to show you it's not necessarily always if it bleeds, it leads, or people taking interests in stories of doom and gloom. Every now and again, the world gets into a tizzy over a curling dispute. I put out a vlog yesterday, a breakdown, because I'm watching this, and my wife and I used to curl, and I know that she was bigger into curling than me, and her mother was bigger into curling than her. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why is this such a scandal? It's amazing. It's not a scandal because people are releasing a stone in a way that might become forbidden under the Olympic rules. It's a scandal because the immediate reaction was a defensive, aggressive denial where the evidence was quite clear beyond any shadow of a doubt. And for those of you who don't know, Team Canada men's team and now Team Canada women's team have been accused of, caught touching the stone improperly. There's a whole lot of misinformation, misunderstandings about this. It's not about touching the handle twice. It's not about touching the plastic cap on the top of the stone. It's about touching the stone itself, which would otherwise lead to a burnt stone. And now people are saying it's not cheating to touch the stone in a manner that's not permissible because all that happens is it results in a burnt stone, that stone being taken out of play. True. And I appreciate the arguments that people are saying hooking and slashing, result in penalties. It's not, put it in quotes, cheating. What is cheating is attempting to influence the game and get away with it, or lying about it, or nobody cares. Nobody cares says, who are you? Russellmania. I thought it said Russia mania. Maybe people in Russia don't care. You want to know how much we care? Do you know the origins of curling? It's not in Canada. It's in Scotland. And now what's happened, because this is what happens the second something gets put on blast, it seems that the women's team might be doing the same thing, which is touching the granite of the stone when you're not allowed, resulting in a burnt stone, as occurred here. Burnt means taken out of play.
Okay, I like it. Clean it. They're saying she touched the rock.
If it's touched, it's going to be removed.
When you like 0% chance.
0% chance.
Another angle?
Right here, watch it. This one's tough to see the angle on, but it looks like she touched it on the way out.
Finger as it comes off.
But when it comes to Kennedy's, no question, and people say, I want to see the other side. There is no question. It might just be his method of releasing the stone. It might be because he was 1/10 of a second slower than he wanted to be, and that he needs to give it a little extra nudge of love. The scandal's out there, and it has become the biggest scandal on earth. Now, hold on. We got the apology. We got the scandal. We have now people falling in love with or getting very frustrated with curling. And people are saying, why are we talking about this? This is a distraction. First of all, this is not a distraction. It's a cathartic release. People are fed up talking about the doom and gloom of politics, war with Iran, war in Russia, war in Israel. People are fed up talking about American politics. This is the distraction that everybody needed to cleanse their palate. And a little AI to make them go, ha ha, this is some funny stuff. I couldn't find the original source of this, so I retweeted the original place where I first saw it. And for those of you who are listening on podcast format, it's E.T.'s face superimposed over Kennedy, with his finger, E.T. phone home, touching the stone, and it's glowing and it's beautiful. The issue was never that the stone was over the hog line, the line by which the stone needs to be released. The issue was that you were not allowed touching the granite of the stone. And a little bit of humor and levity to start today's show. Now, with that said, by the way, images like this, I don't know how this one was created. It looks like a pretty crappy Photoshop. If you don't want crappy Photoshop, people, well, then you might want to check out our sponsor for tonight's episode, Venice.ai, which is clean, good AI that generates images when you get the Pro plan. Sam Altman, by the way, said ChatGPT will get to know you over your own life. ChatGPT has the former director of the NSA. We remember what the NSA did, spied on Americans, kept all your stuff. Now sitting on the board, Ed Snowden calls it a willful, calculated betrayal of the rights of every person on Earth. Alexa listens to us, recommends products based on our conversations. Meta retargets us based on our browsing history. Why do we assume AI is going to be any different? It took us a long time to understand how these evil companies monopolize your data. But there's a solution, and it's Venice.ai. Venice uses leading open source AI models to deliver text, code, image generation to your web browser. No downloads, no installation, nothing. They don't spy on you or censor the AI. You might want to use it responsibly. We're going to talk about this tonight. Messages are encrypted on your and your conversation history is stored only on your browser. AI can be very valuable, but we shouldn't need to give up our privacy in order to use it. Their Pro plan unlocks the full platform and features including PDF uploads, summaries or insights, the ability to turn off safe mode, and unhindered image generation. The ability to change how Venice interacts with you by modifying system prompts, limitless text, and high image limits. Do I want to ask it a question? Here, did Kennedy cheat at the Olympics? Let's hear what the answer is going to be. The link is in the description. You go to Venice.ai/Viva. The promo code Viva gets you 20% off the Pro plan. Using my link, go ahead and check it. Now let's hear. Accusations, evidence, slow motion footage appeared to show Kennedy making contact with the stone after it crossed the hog line. Kennedy's response vehemently denied it. Outcome, no on-ice penalty or disqualification was issued during the matter. World Curling warned that further inappropriate behavior could lead to sanctions. In short, Kennedy was accused, and the visual evidence suggests rule breaches, but he was not officially punished. That's a correct answer, ladies and gentlemen. Now you go and make an AI of AI with, what's his face? E.T.'s face over the... Hold on, what did I just hear? What's going on here? AI's face over... I said I was disconnected from a stream. Hold on one second. Let me just double check one thing here. Are we live across all platforms? We should be live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Let me refresh here and make sure that we are. Okay, good. I see me here. We're live on Rumble. Yes, we are. Good. We are live on CommieTube, or are we? Oh, mother effer, if they did what I think they might have done. Let me refresh here. Sometimes the Olympics... Okay, fine, they didn't. The Olympics are so... it's not even a question of like legit copyright claimant. They are copyright trolls. And I guarantee you what happened for a second, because I just got a notification that the stream was interrupted somewhere. They might have claimed this entire stream for copyright because of the interview with Kennedy from the Olympics. So I'm going to check that out in a second. But that's what's on the menu, people. We're going to talk about a ton of stuff tonight. Barnes is in the backdrop. He's going to pop in a second. The AI, the question that I have for Robert is, we know, or at least it's it looks like a negative legal question as to whether or not you can sue AI for the results generated, because who are you going to sue? But people using results from AI to make accusations, to make identifications of people who may or may not be the culprits, I do wonder what the hell is going on, and whether or not the people making use of the AI results themselves could potentially face defamation consequences or other legal consequences for doing it. Now, let me make sure that we're good on CommieTube. Standard disclaimers. So we got these beautiful things called tipped questions, crumble rants. We get to all of them over in vivabarneslaw.locals.com. You might want to think about subscribing if you want to be part of the best above average community out there. And until Barnes gets in here, I'll take a few, and then we're going to get started on the show. S. Peckham says, I have a nice bet on Kalshi for Vance for president 2028. I bought at 29% in light of throwing Slater under the bus and things in general. What is your Barris's take? We'll get to that in a bit. What's with the Florida Farm Bill that expands food liability products to protect big ag? Like, I was actually having a discussion today, literally just today, with the farm up the street, Coastal Pastures Farm, which is owned by Jake, a veteran. and he's having problems with Florida. And he's like, hey, Florida, red state, right? Like, but what happens when you do business in blue counties? And I said, we're entering a realm where it's, to some extent, even red states, if you're in blue counties or even red states, everyone loves to be in control. Check comments for questions, says Mrs. Pickles. I'm thankful for Robert and Viva. Thank you very much, Chris Kraft. I'm currently in Doha, Qatar. Should I be watching those old instructional videos so I know how to properly duck and cover? Wendell says, how are we going to deal with AI agents defaming people if we don't know who is behind the agent? Is the vendor liable? I'm beginning to think this week, seeing the way things are working, is you might just go after the person who says, well, I'm only using the results of AI. I'm not saying it. AI said it, but I'm basically repeating it. I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to have claims against the people who are using AI to make assertive statements or sharing with affirmation, even if they say, well, I wasn't agreeing or disagreeing. I was just sharing the results of AI. When they did that to identify who they thought kidnapped Savannah Guthrie's mother, when they say, when you make AI jokes, hey, Grok, remove the killer from this image. Oh, I'm just showing you what Grok provided. What's going to happen is they're going to get the liability where they can get the liability. And I think it's going to be on the user who comes in and makes that information their own. By the way, here we go. Tipped via Rumble Wallet, people. Before we get started, let me show you this. You can go download Rumble Wallet, not the sponsor of tonight's show, but basically the partner that has given us all access to free speech and now protection of your money. Download the Rumble Wallet, and you can tip with crypto like this. You just go here, tip with another crypto wallet. Oh, you can go tip with Bitcoin. Scan that. You can invest if you want, and you can have your money in a non-custodial wallet that cannot be seized by governments, cannot be shut off. You own it. Nobody else does. Just don't lose your password. Invest with caution. All right. Now, before Barnes gets in here, we're going to start by reviewing some of the tweets that are going to come up in the discussion tonight. For those of you who don't know, well, now Robert's in the house. He's looking awful dark. Okay, so hold on. I was going to get into the broader context of, I'm going to sue Will Chamberlain and Mike Davis, but we'll get to that in a second. Robert, quickly, what's on the menu for tonight?
We've got the number one topic was no favorites over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. But the other ones include the top 2 and 3 were what is happening at the Trump Justice Department, Gail Slater, the Barnes versus Davis, what that might look like. The other one was the everything related to the Epstein files. We have a Bank of America class action going forward against the concerning Epstein. We've had the Pam Bondi infamous now hearing. We've got now. I'm not sure, though, if it was actually infamous, because I'm not sure the Epstein files even existed last week or Pam Bondi even engaged in a hearing, because I get my reliable news from Tim Pool. And Tim Pool on his nightly Timcast on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday had nothing at all to say about this whatsoever. It's like it didn't exist. We'll get into why Tim Pool might, and a lot of your other favorite conservative influences might have been unusually quiet last week.
I'm not sure. I had to double check. After you mentioned that, I had to double check. I think Tim... I don't watch the show every night. I think he did say maybe more than some. But then the question is how much is enough to satiate desires? I think Tim is not guilty of being quiet on it as much as others. But we're gonna get into Pam Bondi.
A little mini thing on his own. But the nightly discussion that I tuned in for didn't occur on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. A lot of people were trying to go mute this week. Now, Steve Bannon might have his own reasons for that, but but we'll get into some of it's part of the bigger, broader story of what's happening with the Trump administration, what's happening with the Trump Justice Department, the firing of Gail Slater. What does that mean? Then we've got the Texas Attorney General, the biggest white pill of the week, joins Dr. Bowden in fighting against the corrupt Texas Medical Board, proving once again that Attorney General Ken Paxton is the best Attorney General in America. A lot better than our U.S. Attorney General. The Alex Jones sues to bring civil rights relief and remedy in his bankruptcy case, a case that Harmeet Dillon should have been joining, but hasn't. We'll get into Harmeet Dillon's many failures as she chooses to join the rogue aspects undermining MAGA rather than enforcing it, even at the Civil Rights Division, sadly. But Alex Jones at least is not going down without a fight. The Wisconsin has an election integrity case that was not such good news. Texas has an election integrity case that is good news. The seditious six dodge any accountability because the Justice Department and all their interminable wisdom chose to bring a frivolous case, frankly, before the D.C. grand jury, which was a waste of time. So we'll get into that. Also, Hegseth lost in front of court in his efforts to try to discipline Senator and former military official Kelly. Second Amendment, a marketing case that's a problematic case and a school shooting case going forward in the Fourth Circuit. Two big ones pending before the Third Circuit. Immigration, we got a ruling on TPS from a TDS judge in Massachusetts. We've got Judge Boasberg issuing another crazy ruling on immigration. This time he wants all the criminals brought back immediately. And then we have a Trump win in the Fifth Circuit on immigration enforcement and when bonds are required or not for those illegally present in the country. Kristi Noem, or, Grifty Christie, as some have chosen to call her. Her scandal blew up this week because the Wall Street Journal broadcast in detail the scope and scale of what that scandal was, and they only touched the very tip of the iceberg. What Barris and I have been warning about now for 6 months, but nobody in the administration cared to pay attention, sadly. The Dollar Tree, a death at Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree being sued for somebody dying at Dollar Tree. The Tennessee quarterback is fighting for eligibility against the various antitrust operations of the national communist against athletes. I got that one from Brian Bosworth back in the mid-1980s when he was playing at the University of Oklahoma. AI, plagiarism. What if it wasn't plagiarism at all? A young student fought a university and won. And last but not least, the Live Nation Ticketmaster antitrust case that now is probably going to get a sweetheart settlement, and your ticket prices stay unduly high and badly impacting artists and venues across the country, not just ticket purchasers, thanks to the sacking of Gail Slater at the Antitrust Division. So that and answering your questions live on this edition of Law for the People.
Now, I have a sneaking suspicion the first portion of the show is going to intertwine a lot of these stories about Mike Davis, DOJ, Will Chamberlain. We're going to start it off with what Will Chamberlain posted earlier this week, which was update from a source. Robert Barnes was listed in the DOJ security log as a visitor to Gail Slater. She said she canceled that meeting when confronted by supervisors after Barnes received illegal leaks of sensitive DOJ information. But Gail admitted to sharing case information with Barnes. To which you respond, this is how scuzzy the corporate whore lobbyist Mr. DMA is. I never met Slater at DOJ, and I never received any illegal leaks of any kind from her. I will be suing both Will and Davis to expose their corruption to the world. Hey, Mikey, time to lawyer up. Justice is coming. Robert, we need to back this up. To some extent, say it doesn't feel gossipy. At first, it might have, but it does seem to be getting very serious, not in terms of firing of Gail Slater, Mike Davis releasing your tax lien information as though it was some sort of gotcha, but probably specifically and maliciously attempting to reveal your home address. Will Chamberlain, who I don't know how he fits into all of this, now accusing you of receiving illegal, sensitive DOJ information. And I think for people to understand this, we need to understand who the players are in this. So let's walk through the players here. You have Mike Davis, who doesn't have any formal role within the Trump administration, but is very close to the Trump administration.
Yeah, I think sort of the broader context of this is that since his inauguration, there has been a behind-the-scenes struggle for the soul of the Trump administration in his second term. And this has been in the sort of deep state context, the military-industrial complex, our foreign policy, what wars we're going to wage, so on and so forth, how much support and funding is going to go in that world. We've also got, on the other side, the Wall Street versus Main Street divide. You could sort of more broadly characterize this as a fight between the voters and the donors. Though some of these donors are new donors. Many of these donors are donors that actually spent money, like Bill Gates, like Mark Zuckerberg, like Apple, against President Trump in every single election he's ever competed in. And yet these are the people given favorable treatment. So the question is it going to be politics as usual in Washington, D.C., or is it going to be the radical reform the new Trump voter especially, but also the traditional Trump voter, voted and supported? The people that Trump converted from Obama in 2016 combined with the people he converted from Biden in 2024. And so in the military-industrial complex setting, I'll be discussing that a little more with Davis, not Mike Davis, the good Davis, Daniel Davis. Deep dive with Daniel Davis tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Then I'll be on with George Gammon at 3 p.m. Eastern time, discussing update on the Epstein files. People can go back and look at how much I predicted accurately, unfortunately, what would be in the Epstein files. You could have the Hush Hush trilogy on Epstein at vivabarneslaw.locals.com to get further background on that side of the equation. But in the other side of the equation, Main Street versus Wall Street, the number one department that would impact that is the Justice Department, and especially the Antitrust Division, but also fraud, key tam, other divisions that are there. The vice president was trying to coordinate that under his protection that was announced in early January, create a new assistant attorney general for fraud writ large, and have all of these divisions within that to report directly to him, because he realized what was happening at the Justice Department, that this battle for the soul, the Trump second term, was taking place on a day-to-day basis at the Justice Department. All of that got sabotaged by Todd Blanche. Now there is going to be no control by the vice president under any of it. And the main ally of Vice President Vance and those of us in the MAGA agenda on antitrust was Gail Slater. She was someone with an impeccable reputation, had worked for Senator Vance, got the most votes of anybody not named Rubio out of the Senate, because the antitrust is one of those unique areas, they call it the horseshoe, where the populist left and the populist right that are otherwise sort of far apart, when it comes to antitrust, they curve down and they connect to one another. That both the populist left and populist right don't want big corporate monopolies price fixing and increasing our cost of living. That both the populist left and the populist right don't want these big corporate monopolies undermining the labor market, undermining the consumer market, undermining competition, undermining small business and small enterprise, undermining the free market. It's one area where they unite.
Let me bring this up just for the second so that people can understand what you're saying. This is James O'Keefe talking about Gail. Have lobbyists taken over this administration? Gail was one of the good ones. And this is in respect of her announcement of resignation. But, you know, what I love is, I'm going to bring up one from Mike Davis, which was it Good Riddance? It was one where he said, no, I thought I knew her. This is not the right one. I thought I knew her. I've known her for 9 years. And now all of a sudden she changed, not me. But let me bring that one up because I want people to see the evidence that you're not making things up. There's so much more. The power went straight to her head. I'm sorry and embarrassed I recommended her. After 9 years, I thought I knew her. Adios. DOJ. This is in respect of her resigning. This is Mike Davis, who took to Twitter at least 3 times that I could see last week to revel in someone losing their position. I don't know what Gail Slater's financial needs were. I would presume that this was financially speaking, a step down from what she could have otherwise had and not necessarily her money-making venture.
Basically, she decided that she believed that Trump and Vance were legit, went to work for, gave up a lucrative career to work for Senator Vance, and then agreed to join the administration on their commitment to really use the antitrust division to break up these monopolies. To give you an idea where these monopolies are in their scope and their scale of influence, to give you an idea of how much it impacts your everyday cost of living. You're talking about monopolies in the big pharma space, the healthcare insurance space, big monopolies in the pharma space, big monopolies in the insurance space, big monopolies in the real estate space, big monopolies that are fixing rents and increasing mortgage costs, big monopolies in the ticket selling space like Live Nation and Ticketmaster, the big case that's upcoming. Big monopolies in the big media space, where they're which affords their capacity along with big tech to use those and weaponize and leverage those monopolies to censor people, to send false and fake narratives out there. Right now, they're being used heavily by the Israel lobby to control CBS, to control TikTok, to control Paramount, to potentially control Warner Brothers. So these impact, it's the number one, if you're going to deal with affordability, the number one place to do it is the antitrust division. And in the big ag space, the big ag cartels are the reason why your food prices and your beef prices are so high. So that's where, the price issue after price issue after price issue, or speech or other issues come back down to monopoly power and breaking up monopoly power.
I should say breaking up and also potentially not authorizing the merger into monopoly power because...
Exactly. They can block mergers. They can sue for antitrust purposes. There's big antitrust cases pending against Google related to its abuse of power related to YouTube and its Google app. Big antitrust cases potentially against Apple. This includes spying on you, an illicit surveillance state utility, violating your rights to privacy, but not only in monetizing your personal information without your consent, but also accessing your children and helping pedos and pederasts access your children. There was a big antitrust case that Gail Slater was considering against Apple because I brought the case to the antitrust division at the Justice Department that would expose how they stole patents in order to be able to locate children, but then prevent parents from protecting access to their children from pedophiles, pederasts, and stalkers. That's how bad it is. That big tech stole patents, engaged in antitrust monopolistic behavior in order to help dangerous sex offenders get access to your kids. I mean, it's just shocking. And yet, all of these antitrust cases were pretty much dying on the vine. And I'd heard the rumors and ruminations over the summer that Mike Davis, it was illegally, by the way, he's not properly registered. He told people, F you, when people started asking, why aren't you registered as a lobbyist? Everybody knows you're a lobbyist. Wall Street Journal knows you're a lobbyist. New York Times knows you're a lobbyist. Axios knows you're a lobbyist. Politico knows you're a lobbyist. You're going around to corporate clients pitching them. Because that's what I heard from. They kept pretending that, oh, Gail Slater must be Barnes' source. No, she was never my source. My source was Mike Davis, because he was yipping to the press and he was yipping to corporations about his power. That he could literally turn pay-for-play Pam Bondi's Justice Department into a cash register for corrupt lobbyists like him and Will Chamberlain. He saw this as his grand opportunity to get fabulously rich, selling out the MAGA agenda. And guess what? He's legally obligated to register as a lobbyist for who his clients are. He's going around pretending that his client information is super secret privileged. Can't disclose it to anybody. There's no privilege to who your corporate clients are. You're obligated to disclose that in lobbying that he's hiding from and refusing to disclose.
This is an AI result, so worth what it's worth. But I also know, Robert, that he does say I'm representing clients currently, and that I'm negotiating on their behalf, presumably with the administration. And his only argument is, I guess the question is, how do you distinguish a lobbyist from a private practitioner?
What he's doing is lobbying the government for change of policy concerning specific identified clients that under the Tunney Act, if it involves the antitrust, you have to publicly disclose. And the companies are ultimately disclosing this, but he's going around pretending otherwise. So their whole goal was to sabotage, basically treat the entire Trump administration. And there's variations of this happening in the Defense Department, in the Treasury Department, at the State Department, at the Ag Department, at the under Kristi Noem at DHS. But it's been most egregious at the Justice Department. Pay for play, you can get whatever pardon you want if you make the right donation to the right lobbyist. That if you're a big corporation and you got caught with your pants down, all you got to do is hire people like Mike Davis, people like Arthur Schwartz, others, and they'll get it shut down. And the problem they had was anybody honest and ethical in the Justice Department who would say, hold on a second. That isn't what we're here to do. That isn't what the American people elected us to do. And every single person that has objected has been forced out, has either been fired or forced to resign. Every single one.
See, I have too many questions and I don't want to go off in too many tangents. Is there any evidence that Mike Davis represents Ticketmaster per se?
Yes. It's being reported in Semaphore. It's being reported in multiple publications across the board.
Okay,
People that have, the thing is, their scam was to run a number on the populist right. So Mike Davis, who, by the way, if you want to compare resumes, if we're getting into the ring and you want to look at who has actually stood up for MAGA principles and populist principles and reformist principles for the better part of the last decade. I defended the Covington kids. Mike Davis did nothing for them. I defended Kyle Rittenhouse. Mike Davis did nothing for them. I defended people that were part of the subject to the COVID lockdowns. Mike Davis did nothing for them. Will Chamberlain was cheering those lockdowns on.
Let me read this and just specify that it's Grok and not Venice.ai to avoid any. That was going to make a lawsuit joke, but yeah, Mike Davis represents Ticketmaster, more precisely its parent company, Live Nation, in connection with ongoing DOJ antitrust case. Multiple credible reports from 2025 to 2026 describe him as a key lobbyist, advisor, or representative hired by Live Nation to influence the Department of Justice's antitrust enforcement efforts. Okay, that's grok. You take it for what it's worth, but it's citing the articles from which Wall Street Journal, Semaphore, Bloomberg.
Everybody who covers this world knows what's going on. A federal judge who smells a rat, who believes there may have even been potentially criminal violations of the Tunney Act, has ordered the depositions on behalf of various state attorney generals objecting to the Hewlett-Packard merger of Arthur Schwartz and Mike Davis.
What's the Tunney Act?
So the Tunney Act was designed to prevent precisely this, to prevent people from lobbying behind the scenes to sabotage antitrust enforcement concerning mergers or monopolistic practices. This was precisely what the Tunney Act was meant to shut down. And they're doing it at scale. They're doing it to a degree. And again, Justice Department's not notorious for its integrity. I thought it could never be as weaponized as it was under the Biden administration. This is actually getting worse. Trump is on pace to have the most corrupt Justice Department in American history. I don't think Trump fully understands the scale of it and the scope of it. And I think they misused what was in the Epstein files to extort him effectively to continue to back what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But and I know the vice president was not aware. I mean, they did all of this while he was busy with the Olympics and overseas and all the rest. It's not a coincidence, the timing. But the problem was inside whistleblowers and outside whistleblowers. So the inside whistleblowers, they've run them all off. They got Gail Slater to resign this week, and then they went out smearing and libeling her. I have never received illicit leaks from the federal government ever, ever, from any government agency at any time in any place anyway. Confession through projection filter is useful here. What they are disclosing is that Mike Davis and Will Chamberlain have been involved in illegal leaks from the Justice Department. They have been involved in illegal access to the Justice Department, illegal influence on the Justice Department. They are effectively taking bribes to derail MAGA and not disclose to the world who and what they're up to and why they're up to it. And they're often getting illicit information, and they threaten people. So I knew that this was coming since the summer. Since the summer, there's been an illicit campaign to try to use the IRS, try to use other government agencies to go after those of us that were critical of any aspect of this. That they believe that the primary goal, in fact, high-ranking officials this week told friends of mine, their definition of trustworthy is you keep the corruption a secret, not you expose the corruption, not that you don't do the corruption, but you keep it a secret. That is an embarrassment to those officials who are now going to get caught up in all of this nonsense because everybody knows about it. You have 7 Democratic senators demanding an immediate investigation. Everybody knows what's happening. The only people who don't are your core MAGA people because what they would do is they would leak how they got an illicit deal here, an illicit deal over here, an illicit deal over there. They would leak it to the liberal press or the corporate press, but not talk about it at all. Try to find Mike Davis talking about this on his X feed. Instead, he's like, justice is coming, lawyer up. There's a super duper secret thing to take down the deep state. He's lying about all of it. He knows he's lying about all of it. He's been lying about it now for a year. The reason he's lying and running cover and trying to fool and sucker ordinary voters out there and misuse and abuse his access to Steve Bannon, again, as I've said repeatedly, Steve Bannon is the worst judgment about people known to humankind.
We're going to get to
this for 5 years.
We're going to get to Bannon in a separate. We're going to get to Bannon in a separate segment.
But to the cat turds and the rest who flip flop every other day on who they support and who they oppose, I've been critical about Steve Bannon's relationship with Epstein from day one. So there's no evidence he didn't engage in any criminality with Epstein. But it was my ultimate point of proof that his judgment is terrible when it comes to people. His other versions, why is he still having Mike Davis on? Look at what happens last week. He cuts Mike Davis off a couple of weeks ago. Then all of a sudden, Mike Davis is back on, even though Bannon himself has said the loss of Gail Slater is a massive loss to the populist cause. And what happens the next day? All of a sudden, the Justice Department's going to support his petition to the Supreme Court of the United States. Stevie, this looks bad. This looks bad. It looks almost as bad as you deciding to befriend a pedophile and pederass. It looks like you're pay for play now, Steve. If Mike Davis is on your show again, I'm going to conclude your pay for play, Steve. So you don't want that? Then it's time to start to rectify, and you need to come back to the MAGA base as much as Trump needs to, bro. So that's my point on that. But so it's systematic. To give you an idea of how bad it has got. So their goal is you have Mike Davis running around pretending he has access to my IRS files. I've been at war with I have more high-profile successes against the IRS than any lawyer alive. than any lawyer since Patrick friggin' Henry said, give me liberty or give me death, and got the tobacco farmer off on $1 fine. So right before the revolution began. So because of it, I've been attacked by every agency known to man. I've been put under investigation by the CIA, FBI, Justice Department, State Department, DHS, you name it. Rogue agents, state judges, rogue federal judges, rogue state bar affiliations. And so this is like, some people ask me, Barnes, why don't more people do the kind of law you do? It's because they try to make your life a living hell. They try to cut off all sources of funding, public support. They engage in public smear and censor campaigns. The moment I started representing Alex Jones, they did that. For example, they falsely identified me as contributing to Act Blue. I never gave money to Act Blue, but they did it 2 days after the lawyers knew I was going to be defending Alex Jones on constitutional grounds in the Sandy Hook suit. So that shows you the connection between the people waging lawfare on Alex Jones and the people that, for those people that haven't followed the story, Act Blue, James O'Keefe, documented and detailed in great detail how Act Blue is smurfing. In other words, they're taking money from illegal sources or illegal amounts and laundering it through saying so-and-so gave $100 when they never gave a penny to $100.
James O'Keefe did the expose years ago now. We've talked about it.
And by the way, gave the whole
times.
file to the Justice Department, and they've done literally nothing with it.
Let me, the parentheses has been open, so let me get to it right now. Bannon meeting with and ostensibly helping or giving advice to Epstein to rehabilitate his image when he was about to do the rehabilitation tour. I mean, you talk about pay to play. Is there any other reason other than financial that Bannon would have done that?
Oh, he thought Epstein played him like a fiddle. The way Robert Mueller played him like a fiddle, which is he pitched him when he pretended that he was with him populist on economics and policy. Which was just, Epstein is the exact opposite. He is what you have the Epstein class and the working class. There's no better definition of populism than being anti the Epstein class. So he convinced Bannon, as far as I could tell, that hoodwinked him into believing that he was an ally, that he could get him politically connected throughout the world, that he could help support his causes and ideas, as long as Bannon in exchange helped reform his public image. That's how he snookered and suckered Steve Bannon. And Bannon's made this, I mean, just God bless him, but I've been on record saying for 10 years, the guy's personal, I think he's a great architect of populist principles. I think he has the worst judgment of human beings known to humankind. so over and over again, there's no better proof than hanging out and wanting to whitewash a pedophile, pederast, human trafficking, maybe even cannibalizing, baby stealing, eugenicist, money launderer, arms runner, like Jeffrey Epstein, who's the personification of evil in our world. You don't dance, when you dance with the devil don't change, the devil changes you.
Now, Robert, some people were saying that in addition to, just trying to rehabilitate Epstein's image, which is bad enough, that he was trying to sabotage the Trump administration. And look, I don't know what to make of this because I don't understand what the hell I'm reading, but this is allegedly one of the text threads going through where between Bannon in the white and Epstein in the blue, it says, I'm getting crushed for my interviews. I'm getting crushed for follow on my interviews, my ABC, whatever. Can we reschedule? So, okay. Epstein says, keep in mind that you memos on torture, were set aside. Same could be done for no indicting a sitting president. You memo. I don't know what the hell, if that's like code for Jew. I don't even know what that is. And then you're an honorary Jew anyway. I will drop the Christian in Christian Zionist. Now, I just, do you understand what is going on here? Or have you seen these before?
I have not, but my understanding of the background of all of it was, remember when Bannon left, Bannon thought he was going to be maybe run for president in 2020. So that's where that's leaked in a wide range of, he was talking to Michael Wolff. I can't believe he talked to Michael Wolff, but Michael Wolff was deep buddies with Epstein. With Epstein.
Actually, let me just read this here.
But the U is probably referencing John Yoo, who said torture was okay in 2005 under George W. Bush. And so the logic would be that if it extends to torture, that the president would have immunity from on criminal charges on a wide. I assume that's the reference.
Okay, it says I should have it continued downwards. It said the U memo. Okay, about keep in mind that U memos on torture were set aside. Same can be done for no indicting a sitting president. To remove the prohibition on indicting a sitting president would be exactly the same as withdrawing the opinion on torture. There is precedent, and he says will pull. And so some people are saying this is him colluding with Epstein to take down Trump, which makes no sense to me, just given what Bannon did then and after. But I don't even understand how reading that it could support that argument. I don't know if you have a steel man for that being Bannon talking about indicting or impeaching Trump.
I don't know. So I know during that time frame he was unhappy with Trump and was thinking about running himself. So that's all I know. My interactions with Bannon have been very few and far between. I know other people that have had extensive interactions with Bannon, much less so than I have. I think one reason why I have not ever appeared on Bannon's show is that he knows my public criticisms on some of these topics, and that that may be part of why. So, but there are people, the people trying to defend the Epstein files, focusing on Bannon, I thought was really kind of weird. But putting that aside, so you have this bigger backdrop of an effort to sabotage the entire Trump Justice Department to serve the interest of corporate America, Trump's MAGA's enemies, and many of them Trump's enemies, and especially in the antitrust, but not limited to antitrust. I mean, we go through case by case by case. The Pam Bondi is currently betraying the Second Amendment in a case we'll get to in a minute. But remember, Pam Bondi's Justice Department is the one that shut down all criminal cases concerning Pfizer, including the refuse to join the whistleblower case brought by Brooke Jackson that I represent, and lied to the courts about the status of vaccine confidence in the Trump administration compared to the Biden administration. Not only that, she shut down all Foreign Corrupt Practices Act investigations into Pfizer and any corporation that, frankly, had given her money or given Ballard Partners money or given these other lobbyists money. So she basically decided to turn the Justice Department into a pay-for-play. That her reputation as pay-for-play Pam goes all the way back to her Florida Attorney General days, when she also turned a blind eye to Epstein then, when she also covered up all the mortgage fraud, that as long as you made the right donation, she went along with the persecution of Zimmerman, went along with pushing red flag laws. So, she's always been a traitor to the cause at heart. Trump was convinced she's personally loyal. When he never figured out the timing. She only stepped up for the Trump University case after Trump University made donations to the right people connected to her. That's who she is. That's what she's been. And we were promised that, don't worry, even though she's replacing Matt Gaetz, the original nominee, she really understands election fraud because DeSantis understands it. So she'll really be really great on that, Mr. President, and she'll be personally loyal. She hasn't actually been personally loyal. She's been sabotaging him all along. And I suspect her backdoor strategy is that if she ever gets caught up in impeachment or the rest, she'll just flip and blame Trump for everything. And then all of a sudden you have the Attorney General as the main witness against President Trump in a future impeachment proceeding. I have reason to believe she's already been planning that. Todd Blanche, number 2, lifelong Democrat from the Sovereign District of New York. Stanley Woodward, number 3, also affiliated with lifelong Democrats in the district. He got credibility because he defended some January 6th defendants, but he's gone along with all of this pay-for-play scam and scheme. And they were doing it throughout the Justice Department at multiple levels. If you look at civil rights cases, where's the case concerning? Why haven't they done anything for Tina Peters? Why haven't they done anything?
Dexter Taylor.
Why haven't they done anything for Dexter Taylor? Why haven't they done anything for Amos Miller? Why haven't they done anything for Kurt Benshoff? Why haven't they done anything for Alex Jones? I know these cases have been delivered to them. They've shut them all down because it's like who's going to pay us $1 million for that? Okay, go, leave. In fact, school teachers, remember the school board members that were harassed, teachers or exposing corruption by the teachers, by mothers across the country. They were actually threatened with extortion themselves by Blanche's office for even raising the issues. I mean, it's a complete disgrace. It is a totally rogue Justice Department currently from a MAGA Maha perspective. Remember, it's this Justice Department that is right now asking the Supreme Court to give special immunity to big pesticide companies under the preemption disguise. It's this same Justice Department that's trying to overturn a district court's ruling to put fluoride back in our water. So they're betraying. Where are the COVID cases? Where are the J6 cases? Instead of getting prosecution on J6, they're busy covering for a rogue CIA agent who was on Capitol Police at the time. And by covering for her, they're trying to frame an autistic black kid. But that's not all. Take, for example, remember all of the cases of people basically getting swatted? They were Harmy Dillon, the rest said, we're on it. No, they're not. They're not following up at all. They're not doing anything at all. All those people that got swatted staying away. What about the BLM riots? What about the ICE riots? Are there investigations like they promised? To my knowledge, none at all. What about, where's John Brennan's indictment? Where's James Comey's real indictment? Where's the Clapper's indictment? Where's all the Russiagate indictments?
And yeah, anyone
Nowhere
from
to be found.
Russiagate. And just to highlight something, I brought it up, and maybe people didn't see it. Pam Bondi was Pfizer's counsel in 2021. I think maybe also after as well, enacting changes in policy that's going to favor Pfizer. They have not reinstated Brooke Jackson's key tam lawsuit, and there's no denying what's going on clear before your eyes. What I do have a question is what could possibly explain the 180 from Harmeet Dillon? Like, what is her long-term...
Oh, the message was very simple. You either play ball or we will run you out.
We'll
fire every
Gail Slater.
deputy you have. We'll cut off your money. We'll leak against you nonstop. We'll make your life a living hell. I mean, look at what they did to Gail Slater. They publicly put out a bunch of false statements. You got a bunch of these seal clapper types. Can you imagine they're actually pitching that Gail Slater was the reason antitrust wasn't doing more? Are you kidding me? You have to be... Why did Live Nation stock go through the roof the moment they found out Gail Slater was out? Unless Mike Davis is the corporate whore. I mean, come on, people. You're getting played in ways that is embarrassing for you if you believe a Mike Davis or a Will Chamberlain. Will Chamberlain, who was for the pandemic. Was for lockdowns during the pandemic. Will Chamberlain, who cheered the Jacobson case as a great case of forced vaccine mandates in the context of any kind of pandemic. The same Will Chamberlain who said Donald Trump can't get elected and did everything possible to prevent it in 2024 by supporting Ron DeSantis, who even took time off to go down to Tallahassee to support the campaign. That guy, I mean, come on. Mike Davis, his only name to fame is copying and quoting us for the last 4 years. Where was he during COVID? Nowhere to be found. Where was he during the Covington kids? Nowhere to be found. Where was he when Alex Jones was experiencing lawfare? Nowhere to be found. Where was he during election 2020? Nowhere to be found. Where was he in January 6 cases? Nowhere to be found. He hasn't supported any case of any consequence, ever. He's somebody that until we platformed him, most people didn't know who he was. And he pretended to be, I'm going to be a big antitrust fighter, and I'm going to help antitrust, and I'm on the populist side. When all along it's apparent his goal was to get influence so he could get massive millions and millions and millions of dollars. Some of these cases are $1 million a pop, $2 million a pop, $3 million a pop. It's insane the amount of money that's been changing hands. That these companies are going to make billions at the expense of you and at the traitorous expense to the American people. You don't believe me? James O'Keefe is reporting it. Don't believe me? Raheem Kassam is reporting it. Don't believe me? Even Steve Bannon, who's had Mike Davis on, acknowledged this is a disaster for the administration to lose Gail Slater. It means the end of antitrust. You can find the articles in Semaphore and Bloomberg and Politico and Axios. Everybody knows what the scam is. That the Trump Justice Department is a big pay-for-play scheme now, run by pay-for-play Pam with that reputation. And that they will gut every single antitrust monopoly case that could ever come about. The Guardian reported it. Everybody's reporting it. And they're just lying to you about Gail Slater. Okay, why would Gail Slater run to the press to leak how she got humiliated and eviscerated again because the lobbyists got one over on him? No, that was Mike Davis running to the press. That was Mike and Will Chamberlain and their pals running to the press.
Raheem Kassan says the real story behind this is that greedy consultants who have been trying to oust Gail since day one so they can get paid by corporate America. It's a terrible shame and a terrible harbinger for how this admin is now shaking out antitrust. And Mike Davis seems to have retweeted this. Maybe he felt personally targeted by it. Raheem, stop getting played. Gail Slater was a longtime corporate lobbyist with her own agenda. She made erratic decisions. She went out of her way to knife too many Trump admin colleagues. She leaked, lied, disobeyed, subverted. She got fired.
He's disclosing all the things he's done. He's the corrupt corporate lobbyist. He's the one that's illegally leaking. He's the one getting illegal access to intel and information. He's the one that's emotionally erratic. I mean, he doesn't often know whether he's supposed to be grab assing with girls or boys. That's who Mikey is.
But hold on a second. How would he know any of this if he's not in the administration?
Right.
Like, how would he know any of this?
Correct.
And it's funny that he chose to respond to it because he clearly felt that Raheem was.
Well, he knows Raheem Kassam is talking about Mike Davis. Everybody in town knows it. Everybody in D.C. knows it. Everybody in the antitrust circle knows it.
But people can say the buck stops with President Trump, and if this is his administration, it's his fault. I mean, it's so big. Does he even know what's going on? And I presume the answer is going to be no, because the gatekeepers.
Part of it he did because several weeks ago he was going to fire Pam Bondi when some of this information was disclosed. They assumed I got the information from Gail Slater. I didn't. I got it from Mike Davis and others who were out yipping. Because if you're a no-name person, like Mike Davis, what case has he ever won? I don't know of any. Will Chamberlain inherited money from his mummy. I mean, there's nothing serious about either one of these guys.
What is Will Chamberlain's role in any of this? What's his relationship to
he now
Mike
works
Davis?
for Mike Davis.
Okay.
He's now number 2 with Mike Davis. So that's where that is. So the Raheem Kassam knows Will very well. They'd worked together originally in the purchase of human events, and then they went their separate paths. So it's an open secret. Anybody that's in the antitrust world knew what was happening. The populist left had 6 months ago started to say this is garbage. This is a pay for play. Justice Department. They even lost confidence that Gail Slater could stand up to them. All the rest. But now they're out there open saying that this is an open pay for play scheme. You can follow Matt Stoller, his Substack. He's a long-standing antitrust guy. Anybody in the antitrust world knows the scam, knows what the scheme is. And many of them were Trump skeptics and Trump critics and come from the populist left. So those are the people that mostly, there's not a lot of people on the populist right in the legal world who follow antitrust in great detail. This is why Davis could get away with this for as long as he could. But what they do is they just go and lie to the president and the vice president. They lie to him about who the sources are. They lie to him about who's leaking. They lie to him about why certain things and cases happened. And Pam Bondi's main protector, the person who brought her in, her almost lifelong friend, is Swampy Susie Wiles herself, who's been making sure that corporate lobbyists get serviced above everybody else in the Trump administration. And so what would have turned nasty was that started with they started coming after people personally. How could we weaponize the government to go after these people personally? Smear campaigns, libel campaigns. Mike Davis kept trying to dox me over and over again. Hey, look, here's Barnes' home address. Here's Barnes' home. It's not my home address, FYI. So don't go knocking on the door, folks. You might not know who opens that door. It won't be me. So. But trying to say, look, I got his IRS documents. I look at what kind of access I got. I can really, and he was even apparently communicating with people in the agency and other places to try to come after me. None of that is going to work. I've been harassed, to the question, why aren't there more lawyers like us doing this work? It's because you're the first victim of lawfare, is you. If you defend people that are subject to it, they come after you. Everybody's come after me one time or another. I've had them come after me and try to literally get me subject to the death penalty. That's the kind of insanity rogue, because they're so used to abusing their power and they're so used to intimidation and coercion working. They don't know what to do with somebody who's unaffected by it. I knew if they were coming after me, one, it meant I was right over the target because there's no reason to do it otherwise. But two, it meant they're definitely going to be doing it to other people. What happened this past week is they told several key people just in the influencer space that not only would they cut them off from any degree of access or any vendor contract or anything like that if they happen to be in that part of the space, but in addition, they went further. They said they even threatened people that were in emotionally difficult personal circumstances at the time. I won't go into the details because it would disclose who it was, and they told him that if you continue to criticize Pam Bondi and say anything after this Epstein hearing, Pam Bondi is going to use the Justice Department against you personally. Personally. And I had some nitwits. Oh, Barnes must be making that up. I got it from some of the most accurate sources out there, period. People I trust with my life. So there's absolutely no chance. And I already knew that this was likely true because Mike Davis was winking at it all week. He was dumb enough to think that the only reason why I wasn't responding at the time had anything to do with his threats. It was because I got wind from friends and allies of Gail Slater that they were trying to fire her. And so I said, all right, I'll be nice for 3 days, see what happens. They fired her. They forced her to resign anyway. And everybody knew this was coming because she was the last hindrance to turning our American Department of Justice into a open pay-for-play cash register for corrupt corporate lobbyists like Mike Davis. It appears to me they're likely committing crimes. Why isn't he registering as a lobbyist? Is the full money being disclosed in the Tunney Act disclosures? I suspect not. What he likes to do is he likes to threaten that he'll use Arthur Schwartz or somebody else to dig up dirt on you and attack you personally. But this is why there aren't a lot of conscientious lawyers, and this is why you saw a lot of big influencers that have been really big on the Epstein files suddenly go quiet all week. It's because they're whether they got a direct threat or an indirect threat, they heard the message. If you want any access, you better shut your mouth, play ball. If not, we'll come after you personally. We'll weaponize the Justice Department against you individually. Look at how we're attacking Barnes. So that's been the message all week. And this is a struggle that is yet to be determined. And the president's considering going to war in Iran. That could be a political domestic disaster and a geopolitical disaster. I think the risks are much higher than the rewards. So we'll see what other decisions he makes in this context. But that bridges us to the next topic. There's no better evidence of the scandalous handling and self-sabotage of the MAGA Trump agenda and of Trump personally than the handling of the Epstein files.
Well, let me handle some of the tip questions first before I fall too far behind it. I'm muting whenever I cough because I got a bit of a cold. Someone said, "Do you have COVID?" It's like, why on earth would I even test for COVID? But dirty kids and got a bit of a cold. Viva Canada hockey is stacked. If the U.S. somehow beats them, it will be the greatest upset against a communist power since the Miracle on Ice. Viva Canada hockey is stacked. That's from Law Chad over on CommuTube. Then we got Life of Brian. Says at this point that we are well into the same as the old boss phrase is so clear that entertaining hope for this administration makes one look compromised. I'm not compromised, but I'm still holding out hope. Have you seen Klon AI looking to hire human CEO for contracts and regulatory issues? An AI company, $1.3 million salary. Gorilla strength? Maybe I'll have a look at that. And let me bring up the ones on Rumble. Then we're going to get into this because I got some questions about the... Oh, lordy, lordy. Whatever happened to all these high-profile depositions that were supposed to happen, says Tropical Rocket. King of Biltong says, this isn't just biltong. It's premium meat, real craftsmanship, clean ingredients, all made in-house, sold direct. Welcome to BiltongUSA.com. Code Barnes for 10% off. I'll show a picture of what it looks like before the show is over. Support Texas company. South African man came to the greatest country on earth to make a life and support his food. Its food is delicious. Bucklebrush says, you have to interview Bubba the Love Sponge. Viva Bondi, Stormy, Cohen, Hogan sex tape, 34 felonies. Watch the documentary. I will watch the documentary before I know who Bubba is tangentially from Howard Stern and back in the day. All Good Guy says, just a note to say, every man, woman, and child can feel safe shoving Anton's meat in their mouth. All Good Guy says, sorry I'm late. Just had to run a key out to my daughter who locked her baby in the car. God is great. Smash the window if you have to. Randy Edward, queried AI if Masons was Christian organization. AI first replied, Masons are secular. After noting that I had grandfather's Masonic Bible, and Masons are older than the word secular, AI backtracked. AI is asshole. Sparky63, I wonder if there's a mention of the missing Malaysian 777 airliner in Epstein files. It was a convenient distraction during Victoria Nuland's Ukraine Maidan coup. Great work on Scarface, those are Sparky, because he says, Viva, I watched Viva and Lord Buckley go to the movies on YouTube. It's fantastic. We did Casablanca, Scarface. In your review of Scarface, Casablanca, maybe you were distracted by the kids while you watch it. Since you seem to be a great dad, you get a pass. Casablanca is very rewatchable. Rewatch it. We'll see. Holy crap, a whiskey drinking Alex Jones on Fresh and Fit last night. Never thought I'd see it, but I'm here for it. Alex was on fire last night. He had to issue a correction about all of the files being released by the DOJ. I haven't watched the video yet, but I just saw that he posted it. Sean says, Viva, please check out Brendan Lehman's video. Democrat will have a massive racism problem. Please, he will not block you, and he would like the exposure, especially 6 minutes in. Retarded Blondie has destroyed Trump's legacy with her lies and incompetence. Fire her, Wiles, and Patel today. That's from C. Rudd or Trud. And Annie, P13, tipped via the wallet. Thank you, Annie. Now, speaking of Bondi being a liar, that hearing was an abject disaster. And not to say, like, look, I only saw maybe a dozen accounts that were saying it was great. She sure showed them, and they were all of the usual
prominent accounts.
Well, Harmeet Dillon was one.
Well, who's another one?
Cat
Mike
Turd.
Davis.
Oh, Mike Davis. No, for Mike Davis.
Mike Davis, this was the greatest performance ever. This is how bad he's sabotaging the administration, is that his PR is fake and false, and he's lying all the time. And if all you have to do is look at that and say, okay, this guy's a fraud. This guy's a fake. This guy's a phony. He's pretending that Pam Bondi's performance was extraordinary and exceptional and incredible and so good for the Trump administration. I mean, they're seal clapping him right off a cliff.
I'm trying to find the recent disclosure that showed what we all knew already, that Trump was the one who called the cops, said how awful Ghislaine and Epstein were. And yet you had the likes of Cat Turd. I want to bring this one up. I'm not picking on Cat Turd. First of all, he's a big boy and he can deal with it himself. But the tweet that I wanted to bring up, is it this one? It was from Cat Turd. But where, the people shitting on Thomas Massey right now, when literally this was Cat Turd. And maybe it's not a total contradiction. He'll say, well, Massey's gone too far. I really don't care how they release the Epstein files as long as they get released. And now dumping on the person who got the release. And we all said this from the beginning, Robert. We said it as of, I think it was February, March of last year. There's nothing in there that's going to incriminate Trump. The attempt to conceal it looks incriminating. The only things that have come out about it are Democrats and journalists working with Epstein to try to suborn extortion material on Trump. Trump was the only problem is, Robert, it does make some of the people in his administration look a little bit dishonest. Lutnick, and this is the other thing that people don't seem to understand. If you're shitting on Bannon for his relationship with Epstein, you must then also equally dump on Lutnick. And some people are going to say, he didn't have a text message that went back and forth and he didn't try to rehabilitate his image. No, Lutnick lied about the one and done meeting with Epstein because he was such a creep. And then he has to admit that he went to the island with his family and nannies. And I'm not saying that Lutnick did anything bad. Had he been honest from the get-go, the fact that he wasn't honest from the get-go is the fact that he knew he had done something that would have been compromising in terms of reputational harm, not in terms of criminality. But if you're going to dump on Bannon, you got to dump on Lutnick. And if you spend all your day dumping on Bannon and you don't say a damn word about Lutnick, you're compromised. So, I mean, Bondi was an abject disaster. It was a hissy fit, hysterical girl boss thinking that she's going to come in with her talking point insults. You're a failed lawyer to Raskin. Leave it to Pam Bondi to make Raskin look good. You're a failed politician to Massey, the only man who actually got the release of the disclosures with Rokana. Set aside their recent mistake about identifying the guys in the lineup that were not actually involved in Epstein, whatever. But it's a train wreck. And Trump coming out and saying she did a fantastic job. Do you think that he actually saw it, or is he going on the advice of his close advisors who are leading him astray?
My understanding for people in a position to know is that what he published was not his personal reaction. That I think Alex Jones has discussed part of it, that it may not have been as optimistic as Alex described it, but in the sense of Trump being committed to releasing everything. That's still not there, unfortunately. But what is the case, he saw it for the utter shit show that it was. But he made the decision to back her up and sack Gail Slater rather than the other way around.
Yeah, but so why? Like, people are going to say at some point the buck stops with Trump. He must be compromised because there's no other way that someone can have systematically bad judgment like this.
Well, we'll put it in the broader context, and I can see why people are drawing those conclusions. Though everything we said would come out has come out. The people are describing it as the pedo files too big to fail. Quoting all the old Wall Street firms. Paraphrasing.
Let me bring this one up. Lutnick is somewhat dishonest, just somewhat. I'm qualifying it as somewhat tongue-in-cheek. He wasn't under oath when he lied to Miranda Devine, but my
understanding is he repeated that lie during his confirmation investigation hearings when he was under oath.
Then I'd have to find that before I make that. But the bottom line is, yeah, he lied, and the explanation that he gave for why he was so creeped out would be one that is mutually incompatible with taking your family and nannies to his island to meet with him afterwards. But maybe he got pressured.
And it appears, by the way, there's more that keeps coming out. And that they're probably hiding additional information that incriminates him, incriminates Leon Black, incriminates a bunch of people who either they or their kids have positions at some level in the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. Apparently the people that own Zorro Ranch, which they managed to never search, where there may be dead bodies of young girls on that property, according to some of the reports. The kid works for the Trump administration.
Let me bring that one up because I actually quote tweeted that, and then I said my tweet was ambiguous, and I don't want people not understanding what I was talking about. Insurrectionist Barbie, who is responding to a tweet of someone who says, forget who it was now, talking about the fact that it claims that there were 2 foreign children that were buried in Zorro Ranch in conjunction with what appears to be a blackmail. It's an extortion letter. I've got videos of X, Y, and Z, and you better pay $1 million. Here we go. This is it. James, I don't know who the person was, but I was like, okay, there's some good logic in here. I'm utterly ashamed to be a Republican. This is from James Fishback, who's running for something in Florida. I don't recognize my party anymore. Running cover for evil men instead of fighting for good jobs, yada, yada. This is the document where it's from Eddie Aragon to, we don't know, confidential. And it basically says sensitive. So it'll be the first and last. You can choose to take this to the treasurer, whatever. The material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. to note, Epstein's already dead now. It's November 21st, 2019. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Do you know somewhere in the hills outside Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madame G. Ghislaine. Both died by strangulation during rough sex fetish. Here are video footage of Jeffrey Epstein, and it says here, allegedly, sex with a minor, threesome, underage sex, and some other stuff. Please arrange for 1 Bitcoin. Okay. And then this is what came out of the files. Insurrectionist Barbie says it's sad. Okay, now it was... Oh, basically said that this is an extortion letter, and no credibility.
Insurrection Barbie, who's decided to sabotage her whole account for $7,000 a pop. Even if she's not getting the $7,000, she should. She's such a Israel firster. But for those that haven't watched the Hush Hush trilogy at vivabarneslaw.locals.com on Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Jeffrey Epstein, the Epstein trilogy of infamy of its own kind. Jeffrey Epstein was an elite middleman, providing and procuring services of the money laundering, human trafficking, information laundering, vice. The sicker the vice, the more likely he was going to be your go-to guy. Because that's how people are like, how did a guy with no apparent reason to have the money he had and no apparent reason to have the influence and networking he had ended up bringing down potentially the government of Britain, bringing down other governments around the world, bringing, government officials are all throughout Europe are under investigation now. Somehow only the U.S. are they dodging investigation. This is embarrassing to President Trump. But this is pay-for-play Pam's personal preference. Because I think, for those that don't know, background, I think Bondi lied to the president about what was in the files in order to get him to cover up the files because it was her quid pro quo with the deep state. Deep state, you stay, I won't prosecute you. I'll help cover up, I'll get Trump to cover up the Epstein files. And in exchange, you guys stay quiet while I turn the Justice Department into my personal cash register for my pals and buddies and allies. So that we'll be fabulously rich when we leave. Because the expectation is that when they leave, those big lobbying fees that the Mike Davises of the world got, they're going to be sharing it with some folks.
Now that you mentioned that, actually, let me because that brings back to memory here towards the end of Insurrectionist Barbie's response, which says, talk about the fake Larry Nassar letter. That's the problem with releasing everything. And I would bet the reason the Trump-hating faction demanded just this. In fact, 2019 was the year it exploded. Take 2 months. So the suggestion is that now I think that what the narrative that looks like is being attempted to be shifted into is that now it's going to say, well, Trump was right to change tact on the release because he knew that it would be weaponized in this way, whereas he prior to supported the release. But that
isn't what happened. I mean, for those that don't know, so Epstein, infamous middleman of some of the nastiest, it exposes who the elites really are, what they're about. They're capable of the sickest, most vile crimes known to man because at core, they're anti-humanity. This is Alex Jones's great filter on the world. Pro-humanity, anti-humanity. That's the real divide. Not Democrat, Republican, American, Europe, Russia, Ukraine. It is pro-humanity, anti-humanity. And these elites are anti-humanity. They see you as cattle. They see you as cattle to consume their goods, cattle to consume their content, or cattle to service them however they so please. For their most sickest there's language and lingo and suggestions of potential cannibalism in there. I mean, it's as dark as it gets. He's asking for the pictures of 9-year-old girls, 10-year-old girls, 12-year-old girls. Supposedly given there's a sultan whose name they tried to hide initially, who said how much he loved Jeffrey Epstein's torture video. That's how sick and disturbed all of this is. Now, the people that have wanted to take the deep state out have long known the Epstein files will unlock the crimes of the Western elite. It implicates royalty across Europe, not just UK. It's a bunch of other royal families have been implicated in this. You had queens asking for advice from Epstein to help her son, who, by the way, has been accused of rape multiple times. It's like the girl with the dragon tattoo, lived out in live time. For those that are unfamiliar with that trilogy, that was originally made in Europe, and one film was made in the United States. That's who this underworld is. Alex Jones has been talking about it for more than 30 years. He's been identifying Epstein as a key figure in it for more than 20 years. And so that's what we always knew would be unlocked. And the reason why I didn't believe Trump would be adversely implicated in these files is because if he ever were, the Biden administration that had him all would have leaked it. If he were, he wouldn't have been calling for its release. If he were, he wouldn't have been identified by every single lawyer and victim as someone who came to their defense, not someone who caused them harm.
Robin, let me just a minor correction is that it was Epstein writing to the man who has now been revealed to be the Sultan Ahmed of the CEO.
Yes, Epstein was saying he appreciated the torture video from the Sultan.
And people are suggesting it was about a torture video of something that happened in the news around the time of this. I set it aside. What's quite clear is that the media, at least CNBC, didn't even mention that email in their coverage of why he resigned as CEO. But Robert, some people are going to say Trump, that it might have been part of the plan, because if you want to do business with some of these countries, and maybe with the largest port in the world, you got to protect the people that you're going to do business with. And some people are going to use that as a source of incrimination on the intent or knowledge of Trump to backtrack on putting these documents out.
The people it implicates connected to Trump are big donors, big players in Israel, big players for Israel, big players in the Middle East, like the sultans. Again, Epstein had, I think, a fake Saudi passport, as I recall, was connected to MBS. There's photos of him meeting with MBS. So it implicates all the power elites around the world. I mean, there's almost no power elite you could mention that other than Russia. And that's the one they were pretending he worked for. The one place he had no connections because he had to beg people to even get a visa there was Russia. That was the one place he was disconnected from. But all of Europe, all throughout the Middle East, parts of Latin America and Central America, and throughout the United States. And so he was a human trafficker. He was an arms trafficker. He was a purveyor of all things sick and evil. And that's how he developed his network of connections. That's how he developed his network of influence. That's how he became fabulously rich without doing a single trade anybody could find as a great trader. And again, he was hired originally to work at the Dalton School, even though he was unqualified for the position at the time, by Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, who wrote a book about his ideal world involving a parasitic elite in a sci-fi novel having a bunch of underage sex slaves. This is just who these people are, and it shocks the normie, and we predicted this would happen. But what happened is, sometime in April and May, Pam Bondi convinced Trump that disclosing it would be devastating to him, and which never made any sense at all. And all of a sudden, Trump was like, the files have been doctored, it's all a hoax, and da-da-da. So you can know what she lied to him about. There was no reason to ever believe that. The person in charge of the files, detailed by Kyle Seraphin, the grim reaper of corrupt FBI agents, former FBI whistleblower himself. By the way, ask yourself, when I'm talking about all this corruption that's happening in the Justice Department, now do you know why they didn't rehire any of the whistleblowers? Now do you know why Steve Friend wasn't rehired? Yeah, well, none of them were rehired?
It is amazing, and because having gotten to know Kyle quite personally now, I would say we're friends. And I remember my initial reaction to Kyle, which can easily be explained based on the way he has been treated by the administration, by people who have promised him things that only then to stab him in the back. But one thing is clear, of the advice and recommendations that have been put out there, nobody can say they haven't received proper action plans as to what they have to do. You got Kyle offering it to the FBI. You got Stuart Rhodes offering it to Harmeet Dillon, you as well. I'm ignoring you just because we do it weekly. And then you have Steve Friend. And yeah, none of them were actually brought back. They looked for pretextual excuses to fire them even after they had offered to bring them back. And they still haven't compensated some of them for the back pay that they owe them as a result of the wrongful terminations for blowing the whistle. I'm feeling a little black-pilled, Robert.
We'll get to a white pill here in a little bit.
That's not big enough white pill. I know where you're going. It's not anywhere near big enough.
To me, great credit to the one and only, the inimitable, the irreplaceable Thomas Massie, who got this disclosed. Because this is the greatest exposure of deep state global corruption in our history. So the fact that Pay-for-Play Pam tried to hide it, the fact that she mismanaged the disclosure of it, the fact that she continues to sabotage the Trump administration to cover for her pay-for-play schemes is not good information if you support the administration. However, on the other side, we just got this is better than the MK Ultra files. This is better than the Select Committee on Intelligence being run by Senator Church back in the day, disclosing the assassination files. I mean, this is extraordinary. This tells you how these people operate and how they think. They're not only connected to royals and billionaires and political power brokers around the world, how they're fixing markets, how they're fixing government policy, how they're giving each other inside information in intel. Lord Mendelsohn, who was the ambassador for the UK to the United States, had to be sacked. Not only that, Starmer's government likely to fall anytime soon. You want a free pick? go out in the prediction markets, bet that'll happen before April. I think Starmer is bye-bye. Never hear Keir, as they say in the UK. Or I like to call him the Daily Starmer. Given his sort of Nazi ideology and the way he likes to align with the Nazis of Ukraine, and he always likes to hug Zelensky. He's always like Lindsey Graham. It's like, oh, please hug me one more time. That's who those people all getting exposed. The intelligence agencies getting exposed now. So what happened was originally everything was going to be disclosed. Pam Bondi said it was famously on her desk. Then she brought in a bunch of people. By the way, libs of TikTok. Why did you suddenly go so quiet on the Epstein files? I remember you being outside the White House when you were showing binder number 1. And now all of a sudden, is it because it implicates Israel? That all of a sudden it's like, no talking. But that's what was the original promise. Trump campaigned on it. Pam Bondi campaigned on it. Kash Patel campaigned on it. Dan Bongino campaigned on it. Dan Bongino now is doing his little, I guess instead of the Dan Bongino show, it'll be the Dan Ballas Bongino show, or he's got to rename it.
I'm not going to brand myself on being the reply guy to Bongino's show, because the last episode where he is begrudgingly admitting that shit went sideways with the Epstein files, but he's doing it, and I can't blame him. It's predictable. He's doing it in a way that's going to be as favorable for the administration as possible. And he says, did the Epstein disclosures go swimmingly well? No, he's not there to sugarcoat it. He doesn't care how the bill got signed in, but Trump ultimately signed the bill. If I were a reply guy, I would say, yeah, how did it happen is kind of relevant because Trump opposed it, but Massey pushed it. Did it go swimmingly well? No, we all knew it, but we were taking shit and being called black pillars for pointing out that it's not going swimmingly well. And now because he has to respond to the audience, and I say not respond as in cater to, but respond to the analysis and critical thought of his audience, he knows that he has to admit these things, and he's doing it begrudgingly. I won't say late. It's now that he's on the outside. What did he say that he was talking about? Somebody who was from the Obama administration who was heavily involved in the disclosures. What was her name? It had 2 M's in it. Romer.
Oh, yeah, the lawyer that had to finally. I mean, lawyers at Goldman Sachs are having to step down. Heads of UN refugee groups are having to step down. But some people, agencies, Yale president, Harvard, high-ranking professors, UCLA, high-ranking professors having to step down. But yet somehow Howard Lutnick is still there.
No, but some people said, like, you're complaining about these people now and saying how they were always involved in this. You were the deputy director at the FBI. Now the retort is going to be, he didn't make any of the calls. He was listening to Pam Bondi, who was quite clearly, according to one of his tweets from earlier this year, butting heads to the point where, that led to his resignation or his leaving the office. So it's, anyways, the bottom line, like when you have to answer to an audience, you have to face reality a lot.
Now the broader context of what Bondi is doing using these outside corporate lobbyists. Even Bongino's role has a more sympathetic view. In other words, everybody was being told, get on board or you're out of here, and we're going to ruin you in the process. That's what's happened. And Susie Wiles, in the name of let's prevent leaks, hasn't prevented any real leaks, by the way, prevent leaks, is gatekeeping the president from this information. So what happens all of a sudden in April and May, after promising release, campaigning on release, saying the release was about to happen, saying that the Alina Habba was out there saying it's shocking and horrifying what's in the client list and what's in the files. Pam Bondi was caught by James O'Keefe once again. Caught telling people there's all kinds of sickness and crimes committed on these videos. All of a sudden they put out something they've never signed to this date. It's never been officially published to this date. Blanche insists that everybody signed on. Bongino has yet to say he ever agreed to it. That said, there's nothing to see here, everybody. It's the meme. Pam Bondi made some permanent memes this past week, but it's the meme in front of the fire. Nothing to see here from Naked Gun. Nothing to see here, everybody. Nothing to see here.
It was the worst. I mean, it was the worst. It was nails, not just on a chalkboard, nails on my eardrum. And the Dow, the Gregory brothers who did Songify, they did a great version. I'll see if I can capture it. The Dow.
There's what would happen if Pam Bondi was your waitress. Just look this up. It is the funniest thing on the planet. They satirize. There's memes. There's songs. There's alternative videos. I mean, everybody's gonna. You get pulled over by the police. Come on, officer. The Dow's at 50,000. You get caught by your wife kissing somebody, honey. The Dow's at 50,000. Why do you care about how I greet my coworkers? The Dow's at 50,000. I mean, it is going to be the joke. You will be hearing this 20 years from now. Anytime anybody gets caught, we'll say, honey, the Dow's at 50,000. It was the dumbest thing. You notice she almost said it was at $50,000. That's how dumb she is.
Yeah, I heard that coming out also.
Yeah, I was like, and then she realized, hold on a second, it's not $50,000. The Dow would be screwed. We're all done in terms of the stock market. Because that's what they started laughing at. And she's like, you're laughing at the greatness of the Dow? You're laughing at the greatness of the Dow? I mean, it was Tim Dillon did a whole thing. Yes, we should praise Ball because the Dow's at 50,000.
I won't play the. Well, it's only 30 seconds. Even if I play the whole clip, you're listening to.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even?
The Dow right now is over 50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. That's what we should be talking about. The Dow.
The Gregory brothers are the best. They had a bit of a lull. They do art, and The Room is the best one of all time. When they get political, sometimes they lose it, and they're a little bit obviously not on the conservative side of things, but it's a classic.
So there's at least in the justice. So what happened is because they tried to cover it all up and said, we're not going to disclose it. We're not going to disclose anything. We're not going to reveal anything. And, I put up a poll. Do you think this is 8D chess or the worst aspect of self-sabotage ever? And I think it was 70-30, a little bit 75-25, somewhere in there. I also asked people, do you think Trump should keep Pam Bondi or fire her? It was 90-10, fire her now. So we'll see. The 1776 Law Center has a poll out in the field on a lot of these topics. Another one of the white pills, Senator Rand Paul. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Good bill that's coming in. But so they finally, it's because of this, that is because of their ham-fisted, half-assed manner of trying to cover this up, and we said at the time, this is ridiculous. This will backfire. This won't work. Even if you're trying to do a cover-up, this isn't how you do a cover-up. And what it did is it led to such public backlash. Thomas Massie took the lead and led a direct petition because Trump thought Mike Johnson could quash it and prevent it from coming to the floor of the House. He got Ro Khanna on board, and Ro Khanna, who has more populist instincts but on the left, they worked together to get it through. Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, to their credit, women who understand the nature of sexual assault, some from their personal lived experience, said, no, we're not going to, we ran on this, we campaigned on this, this is part of who we are, this is part of why we're in Congress. They tried to intimidate and terrorize him. He went after Marjorie Taylor Greene with nasty, false accusations. Trump was talking about himself when he said traitor to the cause. Traitor MAGA on Epstein files was Donald John Trump, because he took the bad advice of pay for play Pam. And that's what happens when you get in bed with lobbyists. The reason why I was so critical of Swampy Susie being picked as chief of staff. Said you could see this coming 10 miles away. But only then did the reason why we're getting all the files now is simply because they were trying to hide all the files before. But even then, there's supposed to be, they said there's 6 million documents. They were supposed to release them in December. They've only released half of them. Only about 3 million. They're still redacting information improperly. They're still mislabeling information inconsistently. They're still asserting attorney privilege somehow on the internal memos about why they prosecuted. They're trying to hide Lex Wexner's name from the criminal conspiracy list. It's like, why? Now, Wexner is a big contributor to Senator Husted from Ohio. Democrats if Republicans had an IQ over 50, they'd tell Husted, you can't run. We got to replace you with somebody else in Ohio. Husted will get his rear whipped by Sherrod Brown. He was probably already going to anyway, but this is crushing. They're running ad after ad about the Epstein class, the Epstein file, the Epstein cases. But their line is going to be working class versus the Epstein class. That is not a winner for the Republican Party right now. So, and yet Husted took over $100,000 from Wexner. And he apparently took it, and the timing of it corresponds to when he opposed any disclosure of the Epstein files. I mean, it's unbelievable. The self-sabotage is just off the charts. Despite, again, the file confirming what we said, which was independent, authentic, organic reports going back to 2009, that Trump was the one, as Epstein himself suspected, ratted out Epstein. Trump was the one who said, look at Ghislaine Maxwell, look at Epstein, I'm here to help, I'm here to support, blocked him from Mar-a-Lago, raised the issue in 2015, raised it again in 2024 as a campaign issue himself. along with everybody put in charge of the Justice Department, was huge on this issue. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi in particular. But they still have not disclosed about 3 million documents. They're still redacting a bunch of information. And then there's a bunch of parts of the government that still have Epstein files, as Mike Benz keeps pointing out. The State Department, the CIA, and the Treasury Department. The Treasury Department will have the money trail. The State Department will have all of his international connections and illicit activities in that capacity. And the CIA will have a whole lot of files. Maybe not as deep as Mossad, but a whole lot of files. We saw that the person who introduced Palantir to Israel for their surveillance state operation that they would now like to export back to the United States, Jeffrey Epstein, to Ehud Barak. They're on there about how you monetize your office when you leave. I mean, it is a crash course in how power operates in the modern Western world.
I had a discussion with someone who's a very smart person, and if he's watching, he'll know who I'm talking about. And the argument was, it's just getting good business advice on how to capitalize relationships. I'm like, it is, from a convicted sex offender, also an arms dealer. And why the hell is this guy sitting down with Ehud Barak? Why is he friends with the CEO of the largest port on earth in I think it's in the Emirates? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Why? Who was it? I think it was Mike Benz who referred to Epstein as the Forrest Gump of American politics. Why is this guy here? Or if just a coincidence? And then the question is going to be, he wasn't running a sex trafficking ring. It was for his own prurient interests that were enabled or overlooked by CIA because of all those connections. That's pretty bad as well. But we do have concrete evidence of other co-conspirators, other individuals who are accused of sex crimes, Prince Andrew being one of them, and being told that no one else was involved. And then the other argument that it pivots to is,
they're opening criminal investigations around the world into Epstein-connected people. They're opening them in France. They're opening them in Norway. They're opening in the UK. Somehow not here. Because, again, this is the deal pay for play Pam cut. I will protect everybody in the Epstein files and the deep state writ large. You let me scam the off. That's why it's not a coincidence. The same week she's doing her Epstein cover-up, she's doing, or trying to, in Artful, before the House, she's also getting Gail Slater fired, the last independent, honest person in the entire Justice Department. And it's why Harmeet Dillon looks around, sees everybody else getting their head chopped off, and is like, oh, I'll play ball now. I'll put Israel first as my top issue instead of diversity, equity, inclusion, discrimination against white. I mean, I'll give you an example. Jeremy Carl. Remember who we had him on going through the detailed institutionalized discrimination against people just because their race is white? Well, guess what? He's getting blocked by the Senate over Israel First issues because this is what they're doing all the way across the board. And so Harmeet's decided to play ball, and she's decided to vouch for this illegality. And for you, there's no question in my mind, Pam Bondi has committed crimes in the way she has obstructed the Epstein file disclosures. Not to deal with all of her other crimes involving these paper play schemes she's involved in and selling off our Justice Department to the highest bidder. But the Todd Blanche, same way. There's no question also they committed perjury. They've lied at various times about what they said was or wasn't in there, and we now know that they were consistently misleading Congress at a minimum and most likely committed perjury. So they obstructed justice and committed perjury and didn't comply with the Epstein Transparency Act. Didn't even really try. Now, is Scott Bessent is he going to continue to block the Treasury file disclosures? Is Ratcliffe at the CIA, who puts the word rat in Ratcliffe, is he going to continue to hide that information that's at the CIA concerning Epstein? Is the Treasury, is the State Department, Marco Rubio over there cheering, let's continue to be the world's policeman over in Europe this past week at the Munich Security Conference? Is he going to continue to hide what's in the State Department files concerning Jeffrey Epstein? Because this is only going to keep getting worse for the president unless he gets full transparency, full disclosure, hire a special counsel to be in charge of all the release, hire and have another special counsel to prosecute these pedos and pederasts and money launderers and human traffickers around the world. Enough is enough. If our government is unable and incapable of prosecuting some of the worst human beings on the planet, it doesn't deserve to exist as a government.
Robert, let me ask you this. Massey and Ro Khanna are taking some predictable flack because, they said we saw names that were redacted of people involved in the Epstein files. And then it turns out that 4 of them call them randos, who were in a police lineup.
And by the way, Massey had asked about. Massey said maybe these are just 4 guys in the lineup. And in a haphazard way, the way they disclosed it. And then they decided, we'll disclose a list that's not a real list we'll put a list of all the names that are in the files. I'll get to the big name they left off that file. But they've created an index, which is just anybody who's ever referenced at all. So they threw in Marjorie Taylor Greene. They threw in Thomas Massie because these people are in various files because they were wanting the disclosure of the Epstein files. That's why they're in these government records. It's meant to be a cover and to confuse. They've done this in a way meant to cloud who is criminally implicated and who isn't. Now, that's to Trump's great detriment because a majority of the world is now going to think he's in it because of his half-ass cover-up attempts of the actual criminals when Trump's not one of the criminals. But Bondi and Blanche have deliberately run an obfuscation campaign to disguise and deceive people as to who is criminally implicated and who isn't, with this constant misinformation where we will redact them. Oh, and we'll let them think that maybe they're criminal. Then they'll go out there and identify them. They'll say, how dare you? Those were just people in a lineup. This is an obvious scam, Todd Boy. I mean, Blanche Dubois. Everybody, they're just accustomed to doing this at places like the Sovereign District of New York.
But Robert, some would say this is the deliberate setup so that they make this mistake knowing that they redacted the names of 4 people for no good reason, because I'm going to find the clip where Massie says, unless they're just random people who are in a lineup, which they turned out to be, but then why redact them instead of not redacting it? But you
that's no reason not to. That was no reason to redact them, and they could identify that. They could say that. But for example, guess who apparently was missing from the index of identified names?
If I had to take one guess, should I reasonably get the answer?
Yes.
Someone whose name was missing from the list.
You might say a family name.
I don't want to feel stupid, but I'm
connected to the people who introduced Alan Dershowitz to Epstein in the first.
Oh, the Rothschilds.
Yes, the Rothschilds. I mean, if you were, I'll say this: Nick Fuentes fans think they have hit seventh heaven. Almost, Candace Owens fans the same thing. Say, I told you, Barnes, there was a cannibalistic, satanic pedophile elite. I never disputed that there was. I just disputed whether or not Macron is married to his father. I'm not buying that part. Or whether Stalin was secretly a Jew, or whether Mengele was misunderstood. Those are my disagreements, amongst others, with Candace Owens. But the Rothschilds are all over the place. Now, we knew that because remember when we interviewed Dershowitz.
Yeah, you picked up on it. You picked up on it. I don't think I would have remembered that where he mentioned the Rothschilds. I have to go find that that clip.
He said Lady Rothschild is the one who introduced him to Jeffrey Epstein and why he had confidence in it. In fact, once you understand the Rothschild connection, everything about Epstein starts to click. That the Rothschilds, while some people, only a minority of people, have highlighted them for anti-Semitic reasons, for the rest of humanity, it's because they're one of the nastiest, most criminal families for the last 3 centuries. One exception. Their purchase of the Lafite winery is, that wine is superb. The Lafite Rothschild is the greatest wine in the world. So, that's it. That's the only good thing I think they've ever done. These are people that helped found Israel as a nation. Without the Rothschilds, Israel probably doesn't exist. Probably is never founded, never supported by the Brits, all the rest. This is the banking family that helped bankrupt government after government after government going back 300 years. It was the Rothschild Bank where Macron was tutored and brought up and politically protected and put into business in the first place. So the fact they're all over and they're giving Epstein tons of money for what? They say for information and other services. I mean, there was no asset planning that Epstein was any specialist at, unless you consider money laundering asset planning. There's no, you think the Rothschilds need Jeffrey Epstein for tax planning? When they own some of the biggest banks and legal services have, at their queue at a moment's notice? No, Epstein was working for the Rothschilds, and he was one of their key people. And they were the ones keeping lockstep control over much of the Western elite as they could to their self-enrichment and empowerment. And is it, maybe it's, 8D chess to accidentally leave out the Rothschild's name from the index. But that's my understanding. The Rothschild's name wasn't on the index. Now, the other there's a case currently pending against the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, but now is connected to Bank of America that a federal court said can go forward. Because to give you an idea, the judge denied most of the motion to dismiss. He granted part of it. They said, suspicious activity reports were often hidden or not properly or timely disclosed. There are people inside all these banks, like J.P. Morgan and others, that have already wrote huge checks over their fraud and criminality connected to Jeffrey Epstein, including whistleblowers who flagged these accounts as probably supporting human trafficking. So you had people at these banks going, hold on a second. Here's a problem. Here's a problem. Here's a problem. They knew about his criminality and they facilitated it. They enabled it because they got rich off of it. And they were serving their real clients and customers, the billionaires and the oligarchs. So we'll see where that case goes. But the idea of, hey, let's just pretend it's all over now. Let's just pretend as long as the Dow's at 50,000, we're all okay, is not a winning political strategy. What we've been saying now for the better part of a year is the best thing for the president to do is have full disclosure from not only the Justice Department, but the State Department, Treasury Department, and Central Intelligence Agency, and let the chips fall where they may. Number one. Number two, if you have someone in your administration with deep ties to Epstein, get rid of him. Howard Lutnick raised money, by the way, he solicited Jeffrey Epstein as part of this effort, for Hillary Rotten Clinton. People were like, hey, Barnes contributed to Bernie Sanders in 2016 during the primaries.
People
I was
are
a Max contributor to Bernie Sanders, and at the same time, a Max contributor to Donald John Trump. What do they have in common? Hillary Rotten Clinton was their adversary. I despise that person with all of my bone, every bone in my body. Now, if that was back when Bernie was still anti-immigration, said it was a co-conspiracy to destroy our wages, back when he was anti-war, back before he could smell the White House drapes and decided to drop all vestiges or images of populism almost altogether. That was back when he was populist, Bernie. But people act like this was some sort of great, I've been an independent populist my whole life. I am not a partisan Republican. I'm not a partisan Democrat. I never will be.
You know what? People are idiots and they think they got the same own on me. But in 2015, 2016, Bernie and Trump were the most anti-global war, the most pro-American of the candidates out there. And it only makes sense when Davis leaked. It was Davis, right? He leaked your Act Blue.
Oh, look at he put false information about Act Blue and all the rest in there. He had other different Robert Barneses that aren't even me in that list. You're a Bernie bro. I'm a populist. I've always been a populist. I mean, here's what my legal bona fides are. I went to defend the Covington kids when almost nobody else would, and did it pro bono. I defended Alex Jones when almost nobody on the legal right would. I defended people being subject to lockdowns when almost nobody else would. I defended people subject to mask mandates when almost nobody else would. I've done more cases in the COVID vaccine mandate context than any lawyer alive. And with free legal advice, saved tens of thousands of Americans because I hear from them all the time.
Yeah, When you put up the religious exemption in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community and people used it successfully. So, and I remember the messages of thanks coming in and saying, Barnes, I used it and I got an exemption. And I remember it clear as day.
Oh, all over the place. I was in the middle of the election 2020 when a lot of lawyers were running for cover. So I've been there all the way through. Mike Davis was there none of those times. Was never there at all. So that's the resume that matters. Not this partisan nonsense that they try. So that's the advice to the president. If you're going to get ahead of this, if you don't want to be known as the Epstein administration, the Epstein presidency, the defender and protector of the Epstein class, then one, just in general, don't follow the donor-driven agenda of favoring Wall Street over Main Street, of gutting your Justice Department, turning into a pay-for-play scheme, of engaging in war overseas all the time and building up the military-industrial complex. And instead, do what you promised to do to deep six the deep state and radically reform this country. Put Main Street first over Wall Street and end the endless wars. But the other thing is just disclose the whole Epstein files, appoint a special counsel that has the confidence and capability to do so, and has the confidence of the American people to be transparent and honest and accountable about it, because we need both transparency and accountability. And if he would deliver both like he campaigned on, then he would do himself tremendous favors politically. If he continues to let pay-for-play Pam steer the ship of justice, then his administration will sink, and he will go down as one of the least popular presidents in American history.
Sorry, I had a surprise sneeze in there. Robert, we're going to read some of the vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Hold on. Tip questions so we don't fall too far behind, and then we're going to get to the white pill, and then we might have a longer than ordinary after show party at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, because we might go there sooner than later, because I think I'm fading and I'm going to start coughing like a madman here. Excuse me, and I apologize for sniffing. It's gross and it's rude, but whatever. There's no such thing as a special counsel. Law expositor said P. Hans. Slim Shagan from Sports Belfin. Question for Robert. Is Trump out of his mind trying to keep up the pressure on Russia, trying to start World War III? Or is he being told by Susie Wiles, We need to war to gain popularity. When you talk about distractions, that's where you might think about a distraction from the issues at home. It's always been war abroad, but we're now no longer in the ending that war in 24 hours, continuing to support it a year later. And do you have a better answer for that, Robert?
I mean, I have no doubt that he's being told by Bibi Netanyahu and the Israel First crowd. I mean, Howard Lutnick said that the reason why he decided to back Trump this time is that Trump promised to be the most Israel-friendly president in American history. So that's Lutnick on record. He appears to be the minder. He's often laughing whenever Trump talks about the Epstein files. Yeah, that's right. I mean, he lied repeatedly about he created a completely fake story about his interactions with Epstein. He bought his home apparently from Epstein. He lived next door to Epstein. He was in business with Epstein. He visited Epstein's island. Imagine thinking it's exonerating to say that you brought your children, your girls, to Epstein Island.
Okay, one point of clarification. He bought and this is where I didn't make a mistake because there's a connection between who was on the board of the trust from which Lutnick bought the property. Epstein sold his property to Comet Trust. It's the actual name. And there's something about a board member of the trust, or at one point having been a board member, but technically people are like, he didn't buy it from Epstein, he bought it from the trust. He bought it from the trust. He knew Epstein was involved in some extent. He met Epstein the first time there, said it was so creepy, the right kind of massage. He took his wife and kids and nannies to Epstein's
and he gave
island.
his personal number. He was hitting him up for fundraising.
Well, I mean, but that's probably where it all makes sense, because it's at the end of the day that bucks and
they were
favors.
neck deep in the money and all the rest. And he's a huge Israel firster. That's the most common cause between all these people. Is a lot of them are Israel. The ones that adversely implicate the Trump administration, they're people connected to Israel First crowd.
Let me bring this up. It says, I'd take hyphen for Attorney General, but he is Canadian, says Chris Kraft. Thank you, Chris Kraft. What I wouldn't give for Bill Brown to be Senate confirmable. Then we got Goebbels to the German people in late April 45. Don't worry, comrades. The Dow's at 50,000. Here we've got Epstein survivor and Pam Bondi. The Dow hit 50,000. I don't get the movie reference.
Oh, that's from Game of Thrones.
Okay, fine. I thought, yeah, okay, cool. Chupacabra New Zealand says, why is it when Dems get in power, they fight the Conservatives, and when the Conservatives get in power, they fight each other? It truly disgusts me. I've been it's been renamed. Okay, fine. Chris Kraft says, Kyle Seraphin is Bill Brown too with communications degree. Then we got Pam Bondi, don't cry for me, Argentina. I know I should get that reference, but I mean, I know I get the movie reference. But
the famous Evita Peron, wife of.
So hold on. So what was the reason? She says, "Don't cry for me, Argentina." The truth is,
that was when she had cancer and other things. I think towards the end of her life.
Okay. Curious question about Epstein: if the middleman and his right hand Maxwell are gone, who's the new middleman? Well, the Enterprise is as dead as what's a face.
That Enterprise, but you can bet that somebody took it up, and that's part of what the deep state needs to cover the Epstein scandal, because it exposes how they operate and the sickness and dangers they present to us. And the other reason is they don't want those leads leading to people who are actively still doing and taking up the Epstein mantle, because I'm sure it's still ongoing. You can find one country where they're disproportionately connected that Epstein was all excited to get involved with, and that's Ukraine.
All right, and then we got Chris Kraft, can the chat buy a Lord have mercy from Robert Barnes?
Lord have mercy, indeed.
Ithaca 37 Cato, is Lutnick the Hebrew phrase for liar, liar? No, in Hebrew,
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say Lutnick in Yiddish means liar.
In Hebrew, it's meshaker or shaker, and then there's always this like old thing. In Hebrew, truth is emet, and then shaker. And the thing is, the word for lie has like a one balanced thing on the bottom, or it's a rounded bottom, so it doesn't stand on its own. And then emet is like all square base. So they always said a lie will always fall over with the slightest breeze, but the truth can stand on its own. I remember that from elementary school. Lutnick is somewhat dishonest. Okay, I got that. Democrats could ensure the next 10 years of elections in 4 easy steps: start small populist massage prosecutions of Pfizer, impeach someone under President Trump, hang Pfizer vaccine legal issues over President Trump since he started Operation Warp Speed. Well, they would face some of the issue there. Sacrifice a lower-level GOP politician in it to show the party was corrupt with Pfizer, not just Trump, says Gray 101. Tend to agree. I heard about a case regarding the price fixing. What about the price fixing case between Pepsi and Walmart that was dropped by the FTC?
Yes, you can almost guarantee that most likely Mike Davis or somebody like that was on the payroll to make sure it's signed. He's been doing this with the FTC and antitrust divisions repeatedly all the way through. Other lobbyists have been involved on the fraud division and the key TAM divisions to silence and shut down those cases as well. I mean, it's if you're wondering why do we have that chart of zero arrest on all these different things that Mike Davis said were just about to happen a year ago, it's because that's the quid pro quo to allow Mike Davis to get rich.
Yeah, I was going to tweet it while we were live, but like, shut up and wait. It's shut up and wait, shut up and wait. Oh, too late. I mean, that's where we're going to be in about 2 to 3 months if we're not there already. Stingray, as much as I support Trump and now hearing about stocks rising, think maybe that they are keeping Trump from shutting their game down by record stock markets.
Well, yeah, that's a reasonable interpretation. And I think people will think something about the Epstein files blackmailed Trump because the reversal on almost all of his key policies relevant to the deep state, relevant to foreign policy, happen at the same time, happen as the reversal on the Epstein files.
I'm curious what Dread Robert means. Viva. Oh, Viva. Trump knows broadly, not every, I thought he said Viva knows. Viva. Trump knows broadly, not every detail. He is part of it. He chooses who to listen to, who he nominates. Trump is part and parcel of the corruption. He chose corrupt people who also seem to be questionably competent. The same with his endorsements. Don't be taken by an occasional Trump snide remark. No, I'm the only question is I don't believe Trump would do. I don't believe he would sell the country short, and I don't believe he would use his second life by the grace of God to squander it. The only question is, did they say, well, we'll do this to your kids, your grandkids, and everyone in your family, and so you'd better play ball? I think some people are not able to be compromised, but everyone is able to be coerced through threats and extortion. Well, say threats, not extortion. Thanks, Robert, for still telling us the truths about the great Gail Slater, evil Mike Davis, not letting Viva interrupt you, as he, sweetheart though that he may be, often rudely does. Get the hell up, Paulie, give me a break. Listening to your complex histories without distractions is the reason I love your Bourbon with Barnes. Oh, let me screenshot that and I'll send you a Christmas card. No, I'm joking. I don't, but it's the show of two people, so it's not the monologue. Rudely interrupt? Okay, sorry. I don't want to respond like Kennedy. I respectfully disagree.
The Dow's over 50,000. What are you talking about?
Rudely? I don't think I'm rude. Okay, today Mike Benz on his show talked about the globalist censorship project against right-wing populism, specifically where the Biden administration in Spain signed a memorandum in May to supposedly combat foreign information manipulation, yada, yada, yada. This and other MOUs, memorandums of understandings with the EU, has the Trump administration...
Right now they're getting Trump to reauthorize funding for those very organizations.
Oh, we got RB Ham says, why is my X feed completely inundated with anti-Massey smears and because someone got the memo on Massey. They all seem to get it.
That's been there for 6 months. A bunch of people being paid under the table, even some high-profile influencers that I pointed out, to bash Massey. They're spending people named in the Epstein files are spending lots of money to defeat Thomas Massey. He is their number one target, and that's why he has to be the number one person that those of us that are on the true populist liberty cause need to defend in 2026.
Are Davis and Bondi and the rest breaking state laws that Trump can't pardon?
Potentially.
Can Thomas Massey call in Mike Davis for Senate hearing about his undisclosed lobbying and other nefarious activities? Asks Roostang.
Yes.
Thomas Massey. Well, that would be funny. Clip that. Put that on tweet. See Thomas Massey pick up on it. What are the policies and other issues that will drive and grow the post-Trump MAGA movement? At what point will MAGA become synonymous with anti-Trump? Howard the Duke. Is Gail Slater able to rejoin the DOJ if Pam is fired, or does she have to go through the Senate? That was my other question, by the way. So she resigned. So technically, I don't know how they could fire a confirmed appointee. I mean, I guess the question is, why wouldn't she just stick around and say, fire me? I'll make you fire me.
Because they make your life such a... I don't know the exact reasons. I haven't talked to Gail Slater about it. But my guess is, from what was happening to other people, they make your life a living hell to where you just don't want to go through it anymore.
And then Vaheen says, Barnes, just thought you would like to know that Tom Luongo stated on the Below VRIC podcast, all these people who have been trying to tear MAGA apart, the Steve Bannons, the Robert Barnes, all of these guys, they all wind up on the Epstein files, all having relationships? Hold up.
The Epstein files.
This came out at the one...
Oh, I was curious whether I was ever on Epstein's watch list to and not in a good way. But no, I'm not. Tom's gone a little bit mad. God bless him. He's a great cigar smoker, great libertarian, economics. He's convinced himself that Trump is running 8D chess to take out the city of London, who's secretly running the world, and that everything is super duper 8D chess. It's like,
let me just see what this.
God bless you, Tom, but no. And he's been escalating. He hates Marjorie Taylor Greene now. He hates Thomas Massey. Really weird for a libertarian. And because I was like, no, sorry, Tom, this is kind of nonsense. He's gotten ballistic on me.
Let me see. Let me just see if we got it here.
Alex Craner and I ran my idea by Alex about the idea that, to me, it always looked like a sting operation on Trump's part. I was like, let's deny that I want to bring the Epstein files out and everything else. And it turns out, oh, by the way, I'm the guy who turned Epstein in. All of these people who have been out there trying to split MAGA apart, the Steve Bannons, the Robert Barneses, all these guys, they all wind up in the Epstein files, having long conversations, long relationships with them and everything else. And it's
what the fuck? I'm sorry to swear.
Total libel by Tom. But yeah, I still like Tom, despite the fact, it was like, Scott Adams recently passed away, though apparently he's created like an AI version of himself to keep going.
Well, I think they no, I'm not sure about that, because I remember them that he wouldn't want to do it, but maybe he doesn't want other people doing it. That's the problem is you have a name that is a very common name, Robert Barnes. I'm going to just put it in quotes.
Tom and I have debated this, so he knows exactly who he's talking about.
No, but because I can't lie, I did look, Robert, and then I realized like, oh, you got Robert Barnes. It's by Robert Barnes and Ed O'Keefe, so I don't think that's you. Even if it is an article, Robert Barnes and Felicia Sonmes. I'm going to cough. I apologize.
Getting Epstein's attention was generally an undesirable thing. So but yeah, I'm in the Epstein files of these long conversations. No.
Wait, but that's it. How does someone say something like that and
just
not be
libelous,
ashamed
and get away with it because he's gotten away with it in some other context, and it's just not worth my time to deal with Tom, because I think Tom is well intended, just off the res, and he's got this. I mean, does anybody really believe that Trump is bleeding out political capital every single day? Now people think he's a pedo protector. That this was 8D chess. If this is 8D chess, sign me up for checkers, because this is the worst version of 8D chess I've ever seen.
No, I might have to clip that and ask that he apologize for that. The name, in fairness, is as common as
retract and correct, no doubt.
Robert Barnes. It comes up 8 times, so it's not even as though it's throughout there, and it's not. I don't. Well, maybe this one is here. Let's see what this is. This is a. Department of Justice mourning the biggest news, and let's just see where it comes up. This has been fun, by the way. WAPO, Supreme Court says a state may require presidential electors to support its popular
Washington
winner.
Post reporter.
Yeah. So,
Robert Barnes.
Everybody, if you would be so kind, clip this section and tag Tom Luongo and make sure he understands it. Forget the apology, because some people just can't bring themselves to apologize. Make sure that he knows he's an idiot.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah, you can't go all
over the Epstein files.
I mean, it must be rough. It's like being late stage QAnon, right? It's like being there, say, January 20th in QAnon. Do you remember where some of those QAnon people went?
No,
they decided that Trump was secretly president still.
Oh yeah, he'd be back. He'd be
everybody
back
was
by
locked
August.
up at Gitmo, and it was just to be announced that Trump was still president. And the reason why he stepped down was a super duper 8D chess plan to trap it. Remember that? I mean, it was that's where Tom has lost his love and mind. God bless him.
Is there a give, send, go to the fund for suing Mike fake MAGA Davis, asking for some friends? While we're waiting for Viva, I've decided to stop drinking, start working out, and eat healthier. Why? Okay, you talked me out of that. Okay, that's perfect. Robert, we'll get to some of this, and then we're going to go take the party over to Viva Barnes.
We got a couple of. Let's get to those white pills.
Yeah, let's get the white pills.
What's the future of MAGA and Maha? Well, one of them, Senator Rand Paul, finally putting forward a bill to end all immunity for big pharmaceutical companies, including with their vaccines. That is the most popular issue that Richard Barris has ever polled, is get rid of immunity for big drug companies that from their vaccines cause injury. But a person who's been on top of MAGA and Maha running for the United States Senate, the Attorney General of the state of Texas, did something that I've been begging attorney generals and district attorneys to do for 25 plus years, for as long as I've been a lawyer and even before. Your job as a district attorney, your job as an attorney general, if you work in either one of those offices at the state or federal level, your duty, you take an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America. And you also likely take an oath to the Constitution of the state or local government you're part of. You do not take an oath to defend and protect the bureaucracy, to defend and protect rogue agents, to protect and defend corrupt lobbyists. You take it to defend the Constitution. So, but often I can't. I have run into so many attorney generals and so many district attorneys are like, no. My job when the government's been sued is just to defend them as if I'm their corporate lawyer. I'm like, Find in the Constitution where it says that's your job. Do you remember taking that oath? No such oath exists. But finally, we get an attorney general with the conscience and the conviction to act on his oath to the Constitution.
This is in the case of Mary Bowden, Dr. Mary Bowden. You're representing her. That's not, I mean, it's not.
Oh,
not
yeah,
private.
very public. Yep.
Very public. And she was sanctioned and harassed because she was prescribing ivermectin to her own patients. She's a practicing MD. She's not an honorary doctorate. She was a practicing MD prescribing ivermectin and other verboten medications to her patients who requested it, who understood everything in full awareness of fact and law. And then she was, I forget what sanctions she was faced with. Did they didn't strip her of her license, did they?
They were unable to do that. They ultimately publicly reprimanded her and made false factual statements about her in that capacity. They did so even though their own rules require they get a medical expert to attest. Not a single medical expert was even willing to go on the record. They didn't want to be cross-examined. So they had no medical expert testimony against Dr. Bowden. The patient involved and his spouse is the one who specifically requested Dr. Bowden while he was hospitalized, specifically requested ivermectin. Ivermectin, as we now recognize, was one of the only effective mechanisms of dealing with COVID in that time frame. She then went to the hospital to provide it to him. The hospital refused to provide the care his doctor wanted and he wanted and his wife wanted. So they went to a court. They got a court to order that it be provided. That is when she provided it. Later, an appeals court would reverse that injunction, but only later. So everything she did was what the court had ordered. Everything she did was what her medical license required her to do in good conscience. It's also what the doctor had requested and the patient had requested. And there was no adverse medical expert testimony at all that she did anything wrong. Then on top of this, they're supposed to go through certain aggravating circumstances, find fraudulent intent, all the rest. They had no evidence for any of that. No basis for any of that. As we detailed, it violated their own rules. It violated their own procedures. It violated due process rights under the Texas and United States Constitution. And as consequent, we appealed it and petitioned to challenge it to the Texas Medical Board's corrupt and rogue actions to the court system. The key was, what would the Attorney General do? Would he treat himself as the corporate lawyer for these corrupt rogue agencies? Or would an Attorney General finally have the guts to say, no, my oath is to the Constitution? Well, not only did he refuse to defend the Texas Medical Board, the great Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton joined the case with Dr. Bowden, intervened on her behalf as a co-plaintiff to say what happened here is wrong and outrageous, and the constitutional rights of the people of Texas will be protected as long as Ken Paxton is in the Attorney General's office.
Well, and he intervened representing the people of
exactly,
of
representing the people of the state of Texas and defending their rights and liberties that required that he defend the rights and liberties of Dr. Bowden. So credit to great work by his entire staff and team. One of the best. I mean, they not only filed a great intervention, the fact of the intervention, the process, and all the rest, it is rhetorically and factually and legally as sound and constitutionally based. You know, like everybody likes to say so-and-so is based. Well, Ken Paxton is constitutionally based. And superb work on behalf of Dr. Bowden, who risked her license, who risked her career, who risked her reputation to defend and protect the rights of her patients to quality health care. So that she's been subject to smear campaigns. A newspaper tried to smear her this past weekend, had to withdraw that story, because it was more libel. And apparently they decided maybe getting sued again wasn't such a good idea for them. That is the great credit to all the work she did during COVID, one of the few doctors who was a stand-up doctor. But now at least we have an Attorney General who's a stand-up Attorney General, a constitutionally conscientious Attorney General, Ken Paxton. Great job, that whole office. I know a whole bunch of people worked on it. They did a fantastic job. I know a good number of them tune into the program now and then. Y'all did awesome. That's what you should be doing with your law license. Do righteous work. Don't become a corporate whore like Mike Davis or Will Chamberlain, betraying and sabotaging the American people. Be like the good workers and officers and attorneys in the Ken Paxton's Attorney General's office who still care about the Constitution and the rights of the ordinary person.
Now, but tell me, what impact is it going to have on the outcome? Because when you have the Attorney General of the state intervening on behalf of the people against the very board that is the defendant of the plaintiff, I mean, on the one hand, I want to get black-pilled and say it doesn't matter, the corruption is going to be sufficient that your client's going to lose, Robert. But I mean, is this basically the nail in the coffin of the defense? Do they? What do they do?
The
to
Texas
put this to an
Medical
end?
Board is a political IQ over room temperature, and there's doubts that it does. They will recognize it, dismiss the reprimand, take it back, retract it, and dismiss it. They should do what the Attorney General is saying they must do to conform to the Constitution of the state of Texas. Sooner or later, it may take the Texas Supreme Court ruling on it, but sooner or later, that's going to be the ruling anyway.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, it's a white pill, but nowhere near enough of a white pill to make up
to
for
overcome
the
the
first hour and a
Epstein
half.
file disaster.
Yeah, it's like we're not. I mean, I say we're not here to spin things or like whatever. And it's not a question of just focusing on the bad. We're just focusing on what's going on, and it's not optimistic. The early voting for 2026 starts in 2 weeks. Like we're in the midterms now of 2026. Actually, just a little bit of maybe a potential white pill. What should be done? What can be done? And what should we be looking for a potential turnaround to either mitigate the disaster of 2026 or possibly turn it into a W?
Fire Pam Bondi tomorrow. Fire Todd Blanche tomorrow. Fire Kash Patel tomorrow. Put in somebody from the Missouri or Texas Attorney General's positions into those. Somebody from one of those offices, because those people know what they're doing. They've been doing good work for better part of a decade. So look to those offices to run the FBI, to run the Justice Department, meaningfully prosecute everybody connected to the Epstein case that engaged in illicit and criminal behavior, have full transparency of the Epstein files, unleash the antitrust division for these grocery stores fixing prices, for these big drug companies fixing prices, for these big health insurers fixing prices, for these big tech companies both engaged in price fixing and in anti-competitive efforts in general, but also involved in helping pedophiles and pederasts like those in the Epstein files target your children using stolen patents to do it. The antitrust division has a gold set of cases that could radically reform the American economy if we restored antitrust law in this country and restored free market, little small business enterprise. Unleash those. We're with 1776 Law Centers doing an extensive nationwide survey to test a whole bunch of policy ideas. And we'll be taking them up to a wide range of people in D.C., but also using it at the state level and the local level. Because the white pill in all of this is the world is truly awake. They're awake in ways they've never been before. Now, that means the system is going to fight back as nasty and mean, as vicious as it ever has before, because it knows it is at risk. It knows it's a wounded animal in the corner. But we have a chance to take it out and restore the constitutional republic our founders built and created and nurtured for us. We just have to return to it. Just like I say, there's not a lot of principles that you can't find or problems you have in life, moral and spiritual nature that you can't find an answer to in the great holy text of the Bible. That similarly, there's not a lot of legal or policy questions you can't find some form of answer to in the Constitution of the United States of America. And so we can restore our constitutional republic, not go abroad searching for enemies to destroy, stop the stupid and foolish wars overseas, restore economic freedom to the ordinary person and ordinary small business, help capitalize the ordinary small business, allow people to buy food directly from the farmer without getting government permission first, allow people to control what goes into their body, require that big drug companies be held responsible and accountable like everybody else when their products cause harm. And those would go to a great steps to rebuild confidence. And Trump just needs to he's got his Sidney Sweeney looking deep state affair that he's been having that looks pretty on the outside, but doesn't turn out so good when you get the blood test later, Bill Gates style. Or he can go back to his loyal, good wife in MAGA. Just return to your loyal, good wife in MAGA, and your own legacy can be restored and your own popularity boosted.
Okay, good. Let me do one thing, actually, just before we start to...
Another person he should sack is Grifty Christie Nympho Gnome, but we'll get to that in a second.
Texas early voting for Senate primary are happening now. Don't forget to vote for Paxton, says J-Bats, Dan Vicious. Who else keeps getting all these prep ads on YouTube? What are they trying to tell me? Prep, I don't know what that means. Is it the Prep Act? Is it Prep Act ads? Okay. Please watch this brief about Massey. I will. Tropical Rocket says, will they write a bill to disclose the CIA files as Ben's suggested? Hopefully Massey or Ro Khanna see that and move with it because Ben's laid out just very easy what they have to do or what they should do. Bill Dozer says the Shame and resignations are a step in the right direction, but we have to see these powerful monsters held to account. Also, I still respect Robert's legal opinion, even though he blocked me on X. You must have done something to deserve a bulldozer. This is why I don't block people, because sometimes you do it by accident, and then you don't want to have to deal with all these requests to unblock. Ginger Ninja, I know the seal clapping has ended up with the independents' approval of Trump almost in the 20s, but have you thought about trying to clap harder? We should be clapping harder. Okay, good. Okay, so what's going on with Chrissy Noem, Robert? Oh, the movement in Minnesota?
Well, it's not just that. The Wall Street Journal finally dropped what everybody had been sitting on for 6 months that we kept telling people the Democrats were sitting on to take her out. Which is that Grifty Christie, Nympho Noem, so all the way back to her time as governor, there were allegations she took money, campaign money, and put it in her own pocket or related people, that she would lobby people to hire her daughter for get licenses or jobs. Remember, she notoriously, infamously wussed out and allowed men to compete in women's sports because the big corporate lobbies tried to effectively lobby her for it. She gets appointed head of DHS, tries to cut out Homan, brings in nitwits and idiots that cause all kinds of undermining of the public support for immigration enforcement in the United States. Why? Because all along she's lining the pockets of Corey Lewandowski, who she is having an affair with. And now it turns out she was using planes designed for deportation that's what their original intention for. Apparently got a little private room in the back for her and Lewandowski's little tryst and to travel around the world. And it turns out the amount of money she's been giving on no-bid contracts to these connected people with her and Lewandowski is over $200 million, close to $250 million already. So the Wall Street Journal just details that part of the scandal. How long do you want to bleed out, Mr. President, with these bimbos and hoes masquerading as MAGA? So it's time to dump Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche and Kash Patel, but it's also time to dump Kristi Noem. Put Tom Homan in charge. He's actually competent and capable, unlike these corrupt hacks. And send Corey Lewandowski back to New Hampshire, back with his wife where he belongs, rather than all these corrupt lobbying deals he's lining up.
Robert, the retort and the typical argument is, who's he going to replace them with? He can't get people through the Senate.
Tom Homan. Just elevate Tom Homan.
That's for Noem, but if he replaces Patel, Bondi.
Go to the Missouri Attorney General's office. Senator Hawley would make a great Attorney General. Senator Schmidt would make a great Attorney General. There's two right there. And is the Senate really going to block one of their own? Not historically. Look to the Missouri Attorney General's office. One of the Missouri Attorney General right now is suing. I mean, one of them is now the deputy director at the FBI. Andrew Bailey's already there, co-deputy director. Just elevate him to run the whole FBI. But also there's other people in the Attorney General's offices in both Texas and in Missouri who've proven their capabilities again and again and again and again now for 10 years. One of them is suing for reapportionment based on the bogus census from illegals being counted unconstitutionally. She would make a great Attorney General. Any of these people would be better than the disaster we have currently. This is a walking, talking embarrassment. That pay for play. I mean, right now, what are the two things they're going to most remember Bondi and Blanche for?
The Dow.
Yeah, the Dow 50,000 for pay for play Pam, and then for Todd Blanche, it's not a crime to party with Epstein. I mean, these are the most embarrassing, humiliating statements, self-sabotage in political history. Get rid of them now before they bleed. Before you, President Trump, bleed out on the table.
What else do we have? Before we got a lot. We might not get through all.
We got some immigration cases. We got a couple of election cases. We got some Second Amendment cases. We got Alex Jones suing to get relief and remedy himself.
Let's do the Alex Jones right now. We'll see what else we take before we head on over to the vivabarneslaw.locals.com after party. So now the procedural posture of this is Alex Jones filed a claim in the context of the bankruptcy. I wanted to. I read
it's an asset. If you have your lawsuits are considered assets of the estate that's in bankruptcy.
Okay, so he's filed this. It's a standalone claim. It's not like a defense. It's not a response. A standalone claim in the bankruptcy, and he's not. This is what I've sort of I understand, and there's no getting around the judicial fait accompli that is the result of that lawsuit. He's arguing basically civil rights violations, constitutional violations. Violations of due process that Cernovich posted last week. Look up where the ultimate sanction has been for someone who was responsive but not sufficiently responsive to discovery, and see whenever you'd ever had a case where they were defaulted into liability. And I said, look, I practiced for 13 years, but we studied a lot of law. I've never seen a case where someone was even defaulted into liability for actively destroying evidence, which is so far from what Alex Jones did. But the bottom line, we know the injustice. in the claim, they allege, or it is alleged, that the court abdicated its constitutional authority to adjudicate on. It abdicated its constitutional authority to adjudicate on facts and for a jury to adjudicate on facts, and allowed the plaintiffs to do it on their own. It goes after excessive fines and punishment, a violation of the, I want to say 8th or 14th. Which one is that? 8th.
There's 8th, 5th, and First Amendment violations alleged.
And so,
8th is the excessive fine one.
Excessive fines. I mean, it's for anybody who knows what happened. It's not a laughable outrage. It's a shocking outrage. The problem is, however, it's now a judicial fact that the Supreme Court did not take up. So, is there a snowball's chance in hell that even if he were to succeed at any point on this, they say, "Oh yeah, you're right. We're going to award you a judgment from the plaintiffs in the amount that you've been ordered to pay them to wash it out of the what's it called, not the ledger, but the assets and liability sheets." He'll never succeed on this because the injustice has been ratified by all levels of court and the Supreme Court for not having taken it up. Am I being blackpilled right now?
Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's the case that Harmeet Dillon should have brought if she was doing her job, but she deferred to Todd Blanche instead. And Ed Martin wasn't able to push it through, and Todd Blanche tried to get Ed Martin fired. Then Ed Martin was reinstated, but what power he actually has is far from clear. And he's busy issuing his own hostage tweets. Everything is fine here. No fake news. Harmeet has just decided to join in on being co-complicit in the ongoing criminal behavior of Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche. So I gave her a year, defended her for a year. Done with it. I'm sorry. You have all these cases with Dexter Carter, Alex Jones, Tina Peters, Kurt Benschoof, all the lawfare against President Trump himself, the lawfare against the teachers, all the censorship act. You have all these things that are within the civil rights purview, and you're doing nothing but running around helping the Israeli first donors make sure there's no anti-Israeli graffiti someplace. Come on. It's a joke. It's an embarrassment. You want defense? Do something defensible. But you look at what Alex Jones, we documented at the time. These were systematic civil rights violations. He has a First Amendment right of speech, a First Amendment right of association, and a First Amendment right of press. A court cannot weaponize its legal system to take away those rights, and yet that is precisely what they did. Not only that, is the Fifth Amendment right against his property being taken without just compensation under the law, a right to his liberty and property being protected within the due process of the law, and that is protected through the 14th Amendment against state action, as well as the 8th Amendment prohibition on excessive fines. Here, he was stripped of all process. In Connecticut, he was not even allowed to bring a motion to dismiss. In Connecticut, he was not allowed to have a trial on the merits on the actual jury trial, nor in Texas was he allowed to have a jury trial on the merits. Then they issued ridiculous, absurd, asinine, ludicrous judgments that had no connection to reality at all, that clearly violated the due process rights and excessive fine clauses, if that's applicable, as it may be, because it was perceived as punitive in the way in which they went about it. So he was denied and stripped of all of his core rights by a state actor, in this case, the state courts in Connecticut and the state courts in Texas. The state courts in Texas were busy. The judge was busy going to movie premieres because she turned her courtroom into a movie set, literally. They had 4 different cameras set up to actually film it like a movie. Why? Because if it was said in court, they could repeat libels about Alex Jones, but Alex couldn't sue because it was said in court. That's why they didn't allow him to defend himself in that same court proceeding, because then they would be obligated to show both sides of the story. He was denied even the opportunity to present his side of the story. It is one of the most outrageous violations of basic core constitutional rights and liberties in the history of our country. And a competent, capable, caring, conscientious the Justice Department would have already taken this case up, but they have failed and abdicated. So now the only option he had left was to bring this case as a civil suit within the context of the bankruptcy estate.
So a lawsuit destined to fail, but for the court of public opinion and maybe to put some pressure on.
Well, it might not be destined to fail. He's got a good case. It's just, will the federal courts recognize and respect it as such? That's yet to be determined.
But recognizing it as such would be contradicting or undermining the entire process that's already been ratified right up to the Supreme Court.
Because the process was the abuse. The process was the violation. Yeah. And the courts are the number one original targets of the civil rights laws, including the Klan Act of 1871. The number one intended target were the courts themselves, were the judges themselves. Mm-hmm. So you don't get out of a civil rights violation by saying we've already determined it's okay to violate your rights at the state court level. That isn't how that's supposed to work. So if the civil rights is meaningfully restored, then in fact Jones's case is actually legally correct, and legally merited and should be taken up. The question is whether the federal courts have any of the courage to do so, or whether they will continue to cover for this corrupt misuse and abuse of state judicial power by two different states to conspire to strip a man of his civil rights and civil liberties and to strip him of his property, and at the same time without any form of just compensation or proportionality.
What's the rationale for the corruption behind Harmeet Dillon not even contemplating?
Oh, it's very simple. She's
taking
been told by Blanche and Bondi to not pursue these kind of cases, and so she won't be. And if she does, that she'll get treated like Gail Slater.
Mhm.
She'll have all her deputies fired. She'll have all her people cut off. They'll make her life a living hell on a day-to-day basis at work, and they'll leak against her routinely and repeatedly, both to get to the administration, but also in her destroy her public reputation. They've made it clear to multiple people. People can just see. I mean, ask yourself, why is Mike Davis running around trying to attack me on tax issues? I mean, ask yourself what that's about. That's a message to other people. My public war with the IRS, long well known. I'm proud of it. I'm not ashamed of it. The way the game works, I mean, I can tell you where that whole case came about. I exposed the IRS was stealing everybody's medical records. They stole 60 million medical records of more than 10 million Americans in 2014. I documented in the suit that led to 2 different congressional hearings. The IRS paid me back, as they've paid me back after every other time I've beat them in court or exposed their criminality in court, by harassing the heck out of you. And one of the things they try to do is they say, if you don't play ball, if you don't shut up, we're going to lean you, we're going to do this, we're going to audit you, we're going to do this. And most lawyers fold and capitulate. And they say, please don't be mad at me. I don't care. I mean, I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. But I only care about the ledger God has. I don't care about the ledger the government has.
I'm going to think about coughing one more time. I won't. All right, Robert, let's we'll head on over. We'll do the rest over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. What is your schedule for this week coming up?
So tomorrow will be on President's Day with, I think, didn't it used to be Lincoln's Day and they made it 2 presidents? But whichever it is, I like it probably better as Lincoln's Day, but we'll call it President's Day. At I think 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the deep dive with Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. I was warning about the risks of an Iranian conflict. We're talking about that and the Epstein files. Then I believe at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be on with George Gammon, Rebel Capitalist Pro. Discussing the Epstein files as a follow-up to what, if you go back and watch the one we did about 8 months ago, it almost predicted this to a T, even to the point that the public defense would become, the whole system will crash if we disclose the truth of how these elites really live and operate. That they see us as literal things to eat on occasion. The number of normies. I mean, as Mark Mitchell keeps warning them, he goes, look at there's more people searching Epstein's name at the moment than Donald Trump. And Epstein has been almost as searched as Trump now for 6 months. This is not going away. Pretending it will go away is bad strategy. It's backfired for 6 months. Does he want it to backfire for another 6 months? Does he want people like Ossoff running around campaigning, saying, hey, vote Democrat, you'll get rid of the Epstein class? You know, that should be a Republican slogan, not a Democrat slogan. But right now, because of this mishandling and mangling, it has been. So I'll be on with George Gammon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time with Deep Dive. Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll do bourbons at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And then I probably have to travel Thursday for a court hearing Friday, where another bunch of corrupt actors are trying to steal somebody's property.
All right, excellent. And I'll be live daily at 3 o'clock as usual. I'm just finding who we're going to raid right now. What else is coming up this week? Robert, let me bring up one of the comments in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community because they seem to have perked my attention. We're looking at adopting another dog. Trixie, 2-year-old, 48-pound girl. She looks like a hound. She looks like she has long hair, though. Rode to West Palm Beach. And not like aesthetics. One of my kids is allergic to dogs. We have to get mildly non-shedding. Sweet girl is terrified. I may or may not go there tomorrow, people. Okay, we'll see. I'm going to keep that on the backdrop. Harmeet is going to get an ugly name soon for inaction and is going to go out of her way to defend Israel aggressively. Why not do that for Tita Peters? Then we got Ithaca 37K to Barnes. Some right-wing YouTubers are complaining that ICE has chickened out in Minnesota, that Antifa has left and they've won, that Tom Homan is backtracking. What are your views? My views, for nobody who asked, I mean, it's not clear what's left to be done the way that they were doing it. Right. What's clear is that they were causing more harm from a PR perspective than from an actual practical perspective. They're getting more cooperation from local police right now.
That was the key. I mean, Homan's quid pro quo was, we withdraw if you give us real cooperation. You let us get people right out of state jails and state prisons, and you facilitate and enable these hardcore criminals that we're trying to get, and we don't need to do a big show. And he got them to capitulate. So he's trying to refocus the agenda on meaningful, effective, efficacious enforcement. I get the criticism because it was always going to be perceived this way once it went down the way it did. But that's because of the mistakes Kristi Noem made, in my opinion. Not anything Tom Homan did.
No, well, whatever W they're going to take right now, oh, he's leaving. It's a lot. Nobody heard about it compared to another person shot in a manner that's going to be paraded around as alleged abuse, even if it's not. So,
yeah, and we're busy talking about going to war over how some other country handles their protesters. I mean, it's a little bit crazy, but we still have to review the immigration cases, some election cases, Second Amendment cases, the Seditious Six, AI plagiarism, and death at Dollar Tree.
Yeah, the Dollar Tree. We'll start with that one. We're going to go raid. Come on over for the better part of the show, people. We're going to go raid Nerdrotic. No, raid/Nerdrotic. Off top.
Ask him about pineapple pizza.
/raid. All right, okay, go raid Nerdrotic and ask him about pineapple pizza, people. Let's go. Maybe I'll just do it right now.
We were on last week with that Star Wars girl, and I was on last week with Nina Infinity. Had a little fun with both of them. That was those were both good.
You know what? I'm not going to ask the pineapple pizza question because then someone's going to say Viva asked a pizza-related question, and now. Well, I can tell you one thing: my name wasn't in the Epstein files, even in terms of articles reviewed or links of whatever. And I'm like, oh, I guess whatever. No, Robert, all five references for you were references to your legal work or articles or references that were citing you. Well, here, guys, as everyone comes on over, I tweeted at Tom Luongo. We'll see. I didn't realize he was quote tweeting with, presumably with approval, Harmeet Dillon. So that might explain a few things. But I did. Let me see here. If I go home and I do this, and I did tweet it, Robert, while we were live, and I said it's demonstrably wrong. It's not. Whatever. Okay, little bastard, better apologize. Stupid. Like that. That's how you know you can't rely on someone's statements of a matter of fact that are factually incorrect or grotesquely dishonest. All right, nobody's going to pick on Barnes, and I'm not going to say anything about it. We are going to go over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com and take the rest of the cases, and I'll get to the chat in a second. Rumble, see you tomorrow. If you're not coming along, enjoy Nerdrotic. And what else? That's it. When we get a second dog, I'll let everybody know. But okay, for now, Locals, here we come.